Thank you, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Milton Select Board meeting of Tuesday, May 26th, 2026, 7 p.m. here in the Dunphy Conference Room. If you could all join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will start with public comments. Public comment will be limited individually to 3 minutes at a time, 21 minutes in total. I will keep track of both. Mr. Milano, if you could grab the list.
Someone else sign
We'll
it.
list, go on.
Sign that.
Are there others need to sign? Robert? It's okay. We'll start with, I saw on the top of the list, Mr. Robert Mussey.
I have comments. I
Sorry.
have comments regarding the cell phone.
Mr. Mussey, if you just come to the table.
Sorry. Okay. This is
Just state your name
to the
and
small Robert Muzzy, 291 Hillside Street, where I've lived for 46 years. I was the original founding president of the oldest neighborhood association in Milton, Hillside Neighborhood Association in 1986. So we are 40 years old this year. I have 4 points to make about the cell phone towers, and I'm speaking for myself, not as an official representative of the association tonight. But I've spoken with a number of people and gathered these concerns. The cell phone tower application, there are 10 applications, and I read all 143 pages today, along with the 10-page rules and regulations of the town of Milton. And obviously, there was a lot of cutting and pasting to put this together on the part of AT&T. The text for application for 428 Hillside Street, for example, page 7, wrongly references a location on Summer Street when it's talking about the application for Hillside Street. So the town needs to review carefully all 143 pages, word for word, to make sure that this is correct in all respects. It's a legal document and there's a legal contract. So currently it's careless and sloppy. Also, for 428 Hillside Street, the pole referenced is actually in front of 402 Hillside Street, not 428. This pole, VZ74, which I visited today, already has a 7-foot tall, what I think is probably a transformer on it, but I'm not an industrial electrician, so I can't say for sure. Plus 2 other boxes for electrical devices. Is there in fact room for additional small cell equipment here? And did AT&T actually check this pole? Point number 2, we want to make sure that radio frequency levels are within safe FCC guidelines. Does AT&T guarantee they will test each location after installation and certify to the town that each is within safe levels with an FCC compliance report? Point 3, one neighbor has previously had a bad prior experience with the noise emitted by a prior competitor's installation at 275 Hillside Street. Even people walking by on the street commented on the offensive noise level. The residents worked with the carrier and eventually they had to modify the installation to bring the noise to an acceptable level. So I don't see any reference in the town regulations with regard to noise, but it should be noted.
Sorry, Mr. Muzzy, that's your time, but we will have public comment later after
Okay.
AT&T.
Okay, I have one more point to make and I'll save that for later.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, sir, I saw you here, but I know you didn't sign in, so you just sign in.
I signed in
before
now.
you do.
No, please, go.
Okay.
Right.
Yikes, don't be nervous. I'll just say before I start, I'd just like to say, I remember when Nick was the new guy. And now he's the old guy in the room. It wasn't that long ago. It's like full circle here. In any event, okay, thank you. John Corey, 1452 Canton Avenue. And I'm here to talk about the Randolph Avenue Road Diet and the other aspects of it within the town. I'm deeply concerned about the speed of cut-through traffic on Upper Canton Avenue. In the past 8 years, since returning to my hometown to renovate a historic home, I have consistently advocated for traffic calming measures and presented my concerns to both the Select Board here and the Traffic Commission, always emphasizing the urgent need to address high-speed cut-through traffic that not only endangers our safety, but also threatens the very identity of the town. In response to these concerns, I've actively participated in Traffic Commission meetings and advocated for increased safety enhancements, including recently completed Randolph Avenue Road Diet. The benefits to the safety in this corridor are undeniable. It's really a benefit for the business owners and the residents there. However, Upper Canton Avenue has undoubtedly experienced an increase in traffic, particularly fast-moving cut-through traffic. I received radar sign data from the town, and I was shocked to discover that my observations had actually underestimated the problem. Not only had traffic counts gone up year over year, but in a recent 30-day period, data from our own radar signs revealed an astonishing 86% of the vehicles on Upper Canton Avenue were speeding. 86%. If we dig into the data deeper, we find some truly alarming recorded vehicle speeds. While speeds are often in their high 30s, you see them in the 40s, you see some in the 50s. I'm going to point out 3. On May 2nd, Saturday, 10 p.m., 62 miles an hour. Thursday, April 30th, at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, 65 miles an hour. April 28th, at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, 78 miles an hour. These individuals are not reckless drivers. They are operating killing machines. We must address the situation promptly, and I'll cut to the chase. We have the DOT here. We need the state resources, the town resources. I will say Nick and his team have been awesome with me. We got a lot of improvements on Upper Canton Avenue so far. More can come. I have lots of ideas. I can get out and energize my neighbors, and I'm just counting on the Select Board to really take it seriously and help us out up there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Don't start it yet.
Name and address, sir.
E. Gregorio, 41 Hawthorne Road, West Milton. So this is in regards to the town farm, so bear with me. I get very nervous. Good evening. With the town farm RFP withdrawn, Milton has a rare second chance to choose something better, a path shaped by care and community and responsibility to our own community rather than standard commercial development. I am speaking for the residents that are often left out of the conversation like this. Adults who grew up in Milton, attended our schools, and live with developmental disabilities, including Down syndrome and autism. As they enter adulthood, their families want what any family wants, the chance for them to live independently and possibly with possible while remaining close to home with trusted supports and the community that knows and values them. At the town farm, we would create a small community-based living model where residents share housing, build daily living skills, and make visible contributions through a community garden, a farm stand, and a small plant nursery that supports town-wide tree planting. These would not be symbolic activities. They would be real responsibilities that would build dignity, confidence, and purpose while deepening the residents' connection to Milton. This vision could be advanced through contribution among the Governor Stoughton Trust, the Affordable Housing Trust, the Community Preservation Committee, the Milton Housing Authority, and the Planning Board. The Governor Stoughton Trust owns the land and this use would honor the will's purpose by serving Milton residents in the need. Working with the Housing Trust, it could help guide the RFP process focused on this goal. CPA funding could provide seed money for town-owned affordable housing. The Housing Authority could help secure rental subsidies.
30
and keep-
seconds.
What?
30 seconds.
And keep housing permanently affordable. The planning board could help ensure the project is well-designed and fits the surrounding neighborhoods. I'll fast forward. By moving forward this model, we can ensure that these young adults remain safe, valued, and connected to the place that they have always called home. They are not outsiders asking to be included. They already belong here, and they are our neighbors, classmates, friends, and family members. I respectfully urge the Select Board and the Governor Stoughton trustees to take these opportunities seriously and move with this vision forward. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks.
Online, Ada Rosemary. I will elevate Ada Rosemary, who is online. Ms. Rosemary, we can hear you?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, Ada Rosemary, 88 Wharf Street. I'd like to speak briefly to your agenda item on Library College closure and sale. As you know, time is short, but if the town of Milton is seriously interested in acquiring the library site, I ask you to please work now to consider all the things that the town might be able to do with that property. Seek input from residents. There will be lots of good ideas and unmet needs, I'm sure, that will be brought to the table. Second, if a school building is seen as the best use of the library property compared to the larger parcel that we already own at Guile Road, please consider these two things. After 5 years of applying for Mass School Building Authority funding, we finally got approval from the state to pay for 45% of allowable expenses for a new school. We don't want to leave those state funds on the table unless we find it to be more affordable or advantageous to go it alone. And second, a new school is a generational investment for any town. It may be tempting to find temporary fixes, but it would be short-sighted and a mistake to not fully address our decade-long school overcrowding crisis with a lasting solution that will serve our town for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on? Okay, see no one else online or no one else in person. Close public comment. Thank you all. We'll move to item 4. Our public hearing for the application of 2 Pence Market LLC located at 2 Elliott Street in Milton for a retail package store license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages not to be consumed on premises. I will declare that public hearing open now at 7:15 p.m., outlining the following process, meaning the public hearing will begin with a presentation from the applicant. After this presentation, the select board members may ask questions of the applicant. Members of the public also may be involved to make comments and ask questions for no more than 3 minutes. We will set aside a maximum of now 20 minutes for the public hearing on today's agenda, and we'll continue the hearing at our next regular meeting if so necessary. So I will declare that the Milton Select Board, as the local licensing authority, will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 26, 2026 at 7:15 in the Catherine Dunphy Conference Room at the former fire headquarters located at 515 Canton Avenue, Milton. The in-person hybrid meeting and the request of 2 Pence Market LLC located at 2 Elliott Street, Milton, Mass. For a retail package store license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages not to be consumed on the premises. Members of the public may access the meeting in person or online or watch the live access on Milton Access TV. Mr. Kerrigan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Congrats to the new members of the
Thank you.
board. My name is Daniel Kerrigan. I am currently the owner-operator of Steel and Rye at 95 Elliott Street. I'm also a Milton resident, 49 Russell Street. And we are in the midst of construction at 2 Elliott Street, which is the former Bank of America building, building 2 Pence Market. So the market will be a sort of neighborhood local grocer, will feature lots of local produce, grass-fed beef, pork, dairy, poultry. We'll have prepared meals. We'll have a quick serve counter, which will serve smoothies and salads and bagels. And along with our grocery section, we are requesting a license to serve retail spirits, wine, and beer.
We'll open the floor for questions or points from the members. You gotta have some, at least like the brands he's selling at least.
So in your application, the alcohol purchase is to go, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Do you anticipate any on-site seating within the market, and how would your team, what's the operating procedure protocol that you would use to monitor or police, somebody grabs a bottle of wine, what's to stop them from opening it up on site
Good
and
question.
enjoying it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We've had lots of questions. We will have a small amount of seating indoors. We'll have maybe 12 seats inside. And then outdoors, we have a patio area with more seating. So we've had that question a lot. But everything that we prepare at the market will be packaged to go. So all the foods that we prepare will be packaged to go, smoothies, salads, all of those things. So if someone chose to take a bagel and sit quickly at the counter and eat, or hit one of the stools and eat, that's fine. But as far as opening a bottle of wine, there'll be no glassware, there'll be no serviceware, there'll be no wait staff. So we would, of course, prohibit on-site consumption.
And thanks for the background. Just could you just lay out in a little bit more detail like how the alcohol sale will go? Is it just basically like a package store situation where you're buying to go, basically?
Exactly. So
And I have a follow-up question. But yeah.
sure, sorry to cut you off. The way the retail market floor will be set up is if you order at the quick serve counter, you won't pay at that time. The products will be made. You could shop around the store. When your items are ready, your name will be called and you'll go to the registers as if you're in a small supermarket, and the register is at the exit door, so you'd pay on your way out. So the same would go for spirits, wine, and beer. We will definitely be employing local residents, same as we do at Steel and Rye. So, if there's any underage residents under the age of 18 working the registers, a manager would be required to handle the sale. Similar, you see that at the fruit center all the time, or any supermarkets that sell alcohol. But as far as you wouldn't be purchasing it at a counter and walking around the shop with it. You're essentially, the registers are set up at the exit. So once you make that purchase, you'd be heading out.
One criteria, and thanks for that we're evaluating is sort of the public need and supposed to take into account sort of nearby licenses in the area. And I don't know if you have any intel on that in terms of what other options are close proximity there to, or not close proximity.
Yeah, sure. Crafted Crew is at the other end of Elliott Street at Central Ave. They're a well-established shop. They definitely focus on really high quality products. They do a phenomenal job. We're definitely looking to contribute to the neighborhood and not detract from what other operators are doing. A big part of what we're planning to sell is prepared meals, for families, or a way to get something that's healthy, that's sort of local ingredients, clean ingredients, doesn't feel like takeout food. So to be able to get, piece together a roasted chicken and some local seasonal vegetables and, a couple sides of this and that, a bottle of wine paired with that to go is sort of the vision that, you can kind of piece a whole meal together and bring it home. I don't think spirits, wine, and beer is going to be the showcase of the restaurant. It's not a liquor store. It's really a food market, and spirits and wine would be ingredients to go along with that. Sort of how we're viewing it.
Thank you, John. Good.
I'm not, been in the Steel and Rye establishment a couple of times. It's a great store. It's clean, got good help. And I'm sure this store is gonna be the same. Just how's the parking gonna go?
Yeah.
Because you got the fitness across the street.
Yep.
That's a tight area.
Yeah,
But you
parking's-
managed the Elliott Street, your other store fine. I'm just, do you have any other plans?
It's a great question. I think when we decided to put the market in that location in Milton Village, really started looking at the village as a whole and saying it's really a very transactional village. It's called Milton Village, but you go to the ATM and leave, or you go to the post office and leave, or you go to the gym and leave. It's not really a village where you go and explore what's happening down there. So the idea that we can create some connection between Steel and Ride, the bike path, the trolley stops, the gym, the market, the farmer's market on the wharf, just to, sort of start to piece these things together, and maybe there's opportunity for future projects as spaces become available. The idea of creating a village, creating a place where you can ride your bike up the bike path to, or you can get off a train stop at, or you can park your car once and go to the gym, stop into the market after the gym and get a smoothie and pick up a few things for dinner or a few light groceries. But this idea of helping to create Milton Village, helping to make it a village as opposed to a place where I drive in, I circle around, I park, I get one thing and I get back in my car and drive away. It's not really used in a village sense right now, but I think we could be a lot closer to that than it appears. Thanks.
Currently at Steel and Rye, you guys have DoorDash and some of the other
Uber Eats, yep.
Eats, yeah. So I'd be worried, just as we're talking about traffic, with that for 2 Pence. Is there any plan to have 2 Pence as a part of that, being a tougher location for sort of that, think about East Milton, all the folks throwing their hazards lights on, grabbing it and jumping back in, and it'd be hard to have that at Adams Street.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have, worth noting, behind the building, we do have a private parking lot. So there's 7 on-site parking spaces. And then directly across the street where Bustle and Flow is, I think there's 8 or 9 parking spaces. There's 3 parallel to the front door, and there's another 6 or 8 running up High Street. And then on the Adams Street side, there's another 6 or 8, within the property line. So I think, although we all know there's a lot of traffic there, that there's not an overabundance of parking, there are definitely places to pull your car out of the way and park, and especially with the parking lot, I think. Right now, what we've seen is that's kind of a free-for-all. The parking lot is mostly filled with people going to the post office, or people going to Citizens Bank, or coming and going. So I think once that's designated as 2 Pence parking, that really will be utilized for the market, which would be a benefit to us for sure.
Just to comment, another criteria is sort of the character and fitness of the applicant. And, Steel and Rye and you do tremendously good work for the community. So I just wanted to commend that.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. We look to expand that for sure.
Last question. You spoke about Craft and Crew, and then there's Stevie's, as well as the other liquor store right there, and yourself and Steel and Rye. Is there any sort of between yourself and some of the other owners in the area about sort of working together, so it's not as competitive in the space in the village? Like, you're selling similar things but different, right? We wouldn't want anyone to feel that they're gonna fail in that area as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think each of these shops are so distinctly different. If you look at Craft and Crew, that's really a wine drinker's wine shop, right? And I shop there, whenever I'm not, enjoying something I found at Steel and Rye. But, if I'm buying something to bring home, I shop at Craft and Crew. And I think you go there to learn something new, learn about a new region, learn about a new grape varietal. I think Central Liquors is a value shop, right? They have the full selection. You can go in there and you're gonna find, if you're looking for spirits or beer, they have hundreds of labels in both of those categories. I don't think we'll really be any of those things. We're not gonna be a connoisseur wine shop. We're not going to be a wholesale spirit shop. We're looking to say, okay, here's 40 spirit labels that we think are really special. We think that this covers the gamut of what people might be looking for when they're picking up a few groceries and things for dinner. Same thing with wine. Hey, we put out a beautiful chicken Milanese dish, and here's a light Italian red that's gonna pair with that, or a northern Italian white that's gonna pair with that. It's more, it's Thursday night and we're gonna have a simple dinner at home and grab a bottle of wine. So I don't think, I think it's just different markets. And I also think the more businesses we have in the village, the more it'll lift the village. When we opened Steel and Rye, I know this is over the bridge, but there was no Yellow Door, there was no Lower Mills Tavern, there was no Bowery, there was no Lucy's, there was no Molinari's, and on and on and on. And as each of those restaurants have opened, we've gotten busier. Our restaurant has gotten busier each year for the past 5 or 6 years as all of those restaurants are thriving also. And I think we can see the same thing in the village. As we bring more businesses, I think it's just more reasons to come down there.
Are you planning to serve Fazenda coffee?
We're currently planning on Fazenda coffee. How do you feel about that?
I'm a big fan of the Fazenda coffee at Steel and Rye.
Good, I will pass it along to our friend Phil. Who
Forget
loves
about your
Fazenda.
beer and wine, I care about your coffee.
Awesome. Yeah, coffee is one of those things that can be highly divisive, like bagels and pizza. So we dabble in all the things that everyone has an opinion about, so I'm glad that you like the coffee.
I just want sandwiches.
Yeah.
We will have bagels, which I think is something that is not really, there is Brewers in East Milton, but there's nothing on the side of town or Lower Mills or, anywhere in the area. So I think that will be something exciting to add, and I'm sure I'll have lots of opinions as soon as we serve a bagel. What style is this, and why? We look forward to that. I think we'll make a great one.
Other two questions, members? I'll open it up for public comment, either in person or online.
Not at the moment.
Certainly, sir.
I've been
Uh-oh.
poking around. It's absolutely amazing, and it's gonna really just break open that whole place. It's just gonna be fantastic. I can't wait. I get what he means, like grabbing something, going down to the wharf. If no one's been down to the wharf and walked along the wharf, grabbing a sandwich or something just really opens it up, and it's just makes it more inviting, especially for this side of town. And parking's parking. You're gonna double park, you're gonna try to find parking, but I always go to the hardware store and don't have a problem finding parking. If you wanna be there, you'll find parking, but you just do an amazing job at Steel and Rye, and it just looks like it's a perfect fit for that building. And one of those besides like a steakhouse.
Thank you.
But I think
We'll take that into consideration.
yeah, I think it's gonna be so exciting to go in and see it, so I just don't see why. I think adding a little, I don't drink personally, but I see what you mean, like just going in and grabbing something, maybe I might get something for going to a party or something. I'll just grab it real quick and drop it off, it's really nice. But I appreciate all the work you put into it, it looks beautiful, it's spectacular, I can't wait to just sit down there.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, if that is no more comments from the public or from the board, I will take a motion unless we feel we don't have enough evidence tonight.
Move to close the evidentiary portion of the public hearing.
So
Second.
moved. And a second? So
Sorry.
I think we
I
close that
always
without a
jump
vote.
the gun, okay,
Do we need to vote on the close?
Yes.
okay.
So it will be a roll call vote. Mr. Driscoll,
Yes,
Mr. Obersheimer.
Sorry, clarify. What are we voting on?
We're just closing the
The
evidentiary.
evidentiary, okay. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And yes from me. So I will take another motion. Motion to approve, anyone?
I'm looking at the motion script, because I wanna make sure I got it correct.
So here we go. Move to approve the application of Two Pence Market LLC located at 2 Elliott Street in Milton for a retail package store license to expose, keep for sale, and sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages not to be consumed on the premises.
Second. Oh, John said
Motion
it.
made and seconded by Mr. Mr. Driscoll. All right, roll call vote, Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Overshomer,
Yes.
Ms. Nolan, Ms. Haggerty,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Mr. Kerrigan, thank you. I will say, it's really great that you are a Milton resident as well and building in the sense of keeping this town sort of providing more. for all of us that are here. So, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for all the support.
All right. A second. We'll move to a second public hearing. All right, I will declare that public hearing started at 7:33. The Select Board will conduct a public hearing at 7:33 on Tuesday, May 26, 2026 pursuant to the town's small cell equipment policy on an application from New Singular Wireless, PCS LLC, doing business as AT&T, to install 10 small wireless facilities on existing and replacement poles at the following locations: 175 Sumner Street, 20 Ridgewood Road, 633 Harlan Street, 681 Hillside Street, 650 Randolph Ave, 428 Hillside Street, 121 Harborview Road, 1282 Randolph Avenue, 848 Hillside Street, 800 Hillside Street. Plans for the proposed facilities are available for public inspection in the Select Board office located in the town office. The hearing will be conducted in person in the Catherine Duffy Conference Room located in the former fire headquarters, 515 Canton Ave, Milton, Mass., and will feature remote access in accordance with MGL Chapter 31 as amended. Members of the public may access the meeting, attend in person, watch the meeting broadcast on Milton Access TV, or use Zoom. Welcome, sir, if you could
Good evening.
introduce
Thank you.
yourself.
Good evening to the select board. My name is Ed Parry. It's P-A-R-E. I'm an attorney at Brown Rudnick, One Financial Center in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm here representing New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, which operates as AT&T in this market. I do have a few folks with me online, I believe, but if there are any particular questions, we do have our radio frequency engineer, our site acquisition agent, and the health expert who prepared the emissions report for AT&T. So we have 10 nodes. I know you're familiar with the nodes, small cell facilities. One of our competitors was here in the past, and as I drove in, I noticed you get to see all of these things that I never realized in law school that I have to know so much about public right-of-ways and utility poles, but here we are. I noticed you do have a couple of nodes as I drove into town. Just generally, the node consists of an antenna. Some of these are side mounted, some of them are top mounted. Antenna is the same, 24 inches in height, 16 inches in diameter, and as I said, it'll either attach to the top or there'll be a side bracket off the utility pole. It's an equipment cabinet, which is 48 inches long, 24 inches wide, and 20 inches deep. And then the radios are inserted into that equipment cabinet. Cables are run up to the antenna through conduit, so they're not visible. We bring power, fiber to each of these nodes, as we refer to them. We don't have ground equipment on any of them. Everything is attached to the pole. There's some grounding rods that go in pursuant to Eversource requirements. Each pole is licensed by AT&T through Eversource. We have an agreement with them. They have approved our filing about the application for each of these 10 nodes. Right now, AT&T provides most of its coverage through a distributed antenna system in the town of Milton. That places a lot of limitations on AT&T's ability to change equipment, upgrade software, provide service and capacity. With the advent of the FCC ruling in the public right-of-ways, AT&T is seeking to install their own equipment on the pole so they can do their own upgrades and provide better service and capacity. Combination tonight, we have 6 poles that are existing that will attach to. 4 poles will be replaced. And in the proposed order I provided, I know double poles are a hot topic everywhere. We did place a condition that double poles will not exist for the replacement poles. With that, Mr. Chair, I assume we'll go through each node. I gave you the general description. I can give you a quick preview and we can get comments, questions from the public. Some will probably attract more attention than others, understandably, but
You may want to go through each individually and then folks will respond.
terrific. So we refer to as Node 1. Is it 173 Sumner Street? Now, I did notice the question about the addresses. These are not exact addresses. We select the pole, we work through Eversource to license it. We provide the approximate address. Typically, they're in front of the street address. The plans govern. There could be some typos. Producing these narrative application 10 times, I don't doubt that there was a typo here or there, but the plans really govern. You have stamp plans. You have photo simulations for each package. You have a radio frequency emissions report and coverage maps. One coverage map for all of the 10 nodes. So with that, with node 1, this is an existing pole we're proposing to use. The antenna will be mounted to the top. The emissions are 13.5% of the FCC maximum. We comply with all of the policy requirements and guidelines. There are no nodes within 150 feet. There are no nodes within 500 feet. In accordance with those guidelines, the closest residential structure is about 84 feet from the node. We're not in front of the structure. You have a structural report that shows that the existing pole can, in fact, accommodate the equipment. With that, that's the extent of node 1. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Go through all 10.
Go through all 10?
We'll probably just address them collectively.
Node 2 is likewise an existing pole installation. This is a side mounted. It's actually on the rear of the pole where the antenna will be mounted. The equipment cabinet, they'll all be located in the same location at about 11.5 feet above. This is located near 428 Hillside Street. It's pole number 48. The emissions, because it's a side mount, it's a little bit closer to the ground, so the emissions is 30.7% of the FCC maximum. No nodes within 150 feet or 500 feet. It's 297 feet from the closest residential structure per Google Earth, I should note. Same installation, except it's a rear mount or a side mount to the pole. Node number 3 is located near 20 Ridgewood Road. It's a replacement pole. Likewise, it'll be a side mount antenna. The emissions for this site would be 33.5% of the FCC max. There are no nodes within 150 feet. There is one node within 500 feet. And you can see that on sheet C3 of our site plan. We're approximately 47 and 54 feet from the closest two residential structures. Again, you have a structural that shows it can accommodate the installation, and after the replacement, would expect that wouldn't be a problem. Node 4 is located near 121 Harbor View Road. This is a replacement utility pole. It's pole number 8. This will be a side-mounted antenna. The emissions for this site is 28.4%. Again, same design as the others. There are no nodes within 150 feet or within 500 feet. We're approximately 52 feet and 60 feet from the closest residential structures. Node 5 is near 633 Harlan Street. This is an existing utility pole. This likewise will be a side mount where the antenna will be on the side of the pole. The emissions for this one is 39.3% of the FCC maximum. There are no nodes within 150 feet. There is one node within 500 feet. The closest residential structure is 135 feet. Again, you have the structural report as part of the package, same design as the others. Node 6 is located near 1282 Randolph Avenue. This is a replacement utility pole. The antenna will be top mounted in this instance. The emissions is 11.7% of the FCC maximum. There are no nodes within 150 feet. There is one node within 500 feet. And this is near the Braintree Path Trail head. It's kind of a parking lot there that there's an existing pole with a sign on it. So it's really not anywhere near any residential structures. Node 7 is located near 681 Hillside Street. This is an existing utility pole we'll be using. It's a top-mounted antenna proposal. This is near I think it's the DCR parking garage, or not parking garage, some sort of mechanical garage. The emissions from this one would be 17.8%. There are no nodes within 150 feet or 500 feet. There are no residences nearby. And there are no other poles in the entire search area that AT&T could use. Node 8 is located near 848 Hillside Street. Just likewise, we can use the existing utility pole there. This will be a side-mounted antenna proposal. The emissions is 35.19% of the FCC maximum. There are no nodes within 150 feet or 500 feet. No nearby residential structures. And likewise, there are no other poles within 500 feet of the search area. Node 9 is a replacement pole near 650 Randolph Avenue. It's pole 269. This will be a side-mounted antenna. The emissions here would be 29% of the FCC maximum. There are no nodes within 150 feet, but there is one node within 500 feet of the proposal. This one is somewhat close to a residential structure. It's about 30 feet away. There's a structural report. As I said, it will comply with the FCC requirements. There are other poles in the area. This was the preferred pole by AT&T for the proposed coverage. Node 10 is near 800 Hillside Street. This is an existing utility pole. This likewise will be a side-mounted antenna. Emissions will be 37.8%. There are no nodes within 150 feet, no nodes within 500 feet. There are no nearby residential structures. This is kind of out there by the DCR property. So that's 1 through 10, the best identified by address. As I said, it's a mix of existing and replacement poles. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or have our folks online provide responses.
Thank you. From the members.
So my question is, what would you articulate is the purpose and need of this project? How is it going to improve the quality of service for the residents of this town?
Sure.
There's a lot of articulation of AT&T's project, but typically in infrastructure projects, we discuss purpose and need. So thought you could do a little bit more there.
Yep. Can we pull up? Do you have the maps? Do you have our application materials?
I do. I have the coverage map.
Coverage maps. Sure.
And I do think that sometimes in the area impacted, some of these locations that cell service can be spotty, but I think it would be good to see the data on it.
Can you see if Kevin Brewer is also? So I'll run through first. As I mentioned, we're looking to improve AT&T service. This is just going to be for AT&T. It's not, for any of our competitors. So if you take a look up at the map behind you, this is the current AT&T coverage in this area in Milton. The little, I think they're blue stars are the proposed node locations. And you can see, you probably can't see, but what we're looking to get is green and blue so that we can get, green is the best coverage AT&T has available. I don't know if everybody can see it, but there's a little chart on the lower left-hand corner. It talks about high connectivity, marginal connectivity, and poor, and it's all it's all color coded. So we're looking for green and blue would be best. Obviously, you'll be able to make place calls, retain a call, but this is what AT&T's existing coverage looks like. Can we flip to the next one? So if you keep it on,
Just 1 second, let me do my best weatherman here. So you're saying this general area, down in the area of Marginal?
correct, if it's that pinkish,
Area?
yeah, pinkish gray is pretty much no coverage. And we're looking to get, blues and greens are ideal. As you'll see in the surrounding areas, you got lots of green, blue spillover. So with these small cell nodes, you're gonna get, maybe a third, maybe out to a half a mile radius for coverage. If you could flip to the next shot, you'll see that green, blue will light up where those stars are. Yep. So that's the enhancements you'll get from the AT&T code. With these nodes, I think there's one node there, I think there's 11 stars on the map, which was pointed out to us. That top star, kind of where the goop is kind of there, they're kind of right in the middle. That's a node that they're still looking for a location on.
So obviously, a lot of these are along Hillside, which does abut DCR and Blue Hills. Is there a response to a request from DCR or others for coverage in the Blue Hills?
No, but I think it's just a matter of AT&T's not getting adequate coverage. It could be it could be just network issues. It could be customer complaints. It could be, DCR may have, we do business with DCR, but I'm not aware of anything in particular. As I said, Kevin Brewer is on if there are particular questions about AT&T's network. He's the design engineer. So if you recall, you had a lot of sort of pink, orange, and they'll all light up this green.
Thank you.
Just to, first is just, how do you arrive at 10? I mean, I saw the yellow, just interested in the math. I mean, the last time, I wasn't here, but the last applicant, I think, needed 2, and just trying to understand, the math there.
Yeah, so that it's mostly a matter of budget. We could use thousands of sites throughout New England, probably thousands of sites in Massachusetts. There's limited capital, limited budgets. When they get released, they have areas that they try, to get coverage in. Milton is, tough for big cell towers, tall buildings. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities for co-location where you see the big, monopoles, et cetera. So the idea was get the coverage where, the network is demanding it, where people are demanding it. They monitor the network all the time to see where the down spots are. Fortunately, you got 10 nodes. I mean, that's a pretty big budget move. Now, as I said, we do have a DAS system, the distributed antenna system, which we'll be moving off so that we can provide AT&T can provide its own coverage. So, it's not a shared issue. It'll be AT&T stuff in particular. 10 is a lot of nodes for one go these days. So, it's a capital outlay for AT&T for sure.
And second, thanks, from a health perspective, and
Yep.
this is in part because of a resident's comment tonight, but also, typically this is a question that comes up
Yep.
is regarding the emissions. Could you just help me better understand when's that tested? You listed kind of the percentage of FCC max, like how do we know it will remain that percentage as this goes on?
So they're not tested. These are all by calculation because they're so low, testing's not required. We have to meet the FCC requirements. As I said, I think the highest one was at about 39%, but that's exclusive jurisdiction of the FCC. It's not something that can be taken into consideration as long as we comply. There's no testing requirement that they be done, but the physics dictate, what the percentage would be. These are worst case numbers, as you'll see in the report that we provided. And we do have our, expert here if you want to have, any particular questions.
I think you're giving me too much credit with my question, but just even to understand, like, how are you able to represent those numbers? And it must be how the node is developed or something to
It's all-
kind of, you know, be comfortable that
Yep.
that's the emission percentage.
It's an FCC formula. It's straight up from, you know, all of the electrical engineers that provide the FCC with guidance. If you want details, I can have Don come on and just explain how the calculations are done, but you know, it's just pure math. The, you know, electrical power goes in, comes out of the antenna, and you know, they can only produce so much. So we take it as though it's operating 24/7, full power. That's not likely to happen. If you have an antenna outside and it's perfect, that you're standing right in the line of the antenna, you might, you know, get to those percentages, but as soon as you're inside a building or behind a tree, it all dissipates off quickly.
And is Don on?
Don is on.
I don't
Do you have
wanna.
Don Hayes?
sl-
Do you have
it-
Don
It's
Hayes?
a question that comes up,
It's a great
so I think
question.
it'd be worth
No,
just
it's-
we get it all the
understanding,
time.
yeah.
That's why we bring him. You have Don Hayes?
Yes, I just requested that he join the meeting and he is now.
I'm happy to repeat the question too.
I think, let's
Should
hope
we
he
just
was, let's
open
hope he
the
was
floor
awake and
for
listening.
Don, if there's anything they'd like to add? For Don, come on. Mr. Brewer, we see you in here as well as Mr. Hayes. If either of you have something you would like to add to the conversation or to answer the question as put forth.
Good evening, Don Hayes here.
Good evening, sir.
I just want to say thank you for promoting me to a panelist. I feel honored. So I don't want to get into a lot of detail about these calculations, but Mr. Perry was correct. The FCC does dictate the formulas on how to prepare the calculations. What they don't provide exact details on is to how to make sure that you have done the calculations that'll include the highest emissions possible. And so if you look through my report, you'll see that there are several assumptions that I make. The first being that the site is in 100% operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The second thing I assume is that there is no degradation of signal due to ambient conditions such as fog, rain, weather, leaves, foliage, airplanes, drones, whatever else you may have in the air. That doesn't affect the signal at all. The third thing, and it sounds kind of silly, but I do not assume that the earth curves. And that does make a difference if you're a radio engineer, but if you're living in a neighborhood, that doesn't make a difference at all. And so I assume that the earth doesn't curve. And so the antenna is not actually higher the further away you get. The fourth thing I do is I make sure that I assume that the ground is a perfect mirror for the waves. So in other words, as one wave comes in and it bounces perfectly off the ground such that as it's coming back up, another wave is coming down and combines with it absolutely perfectly. Will that happen in nature? No, but I assume it does. And then the last thing I do is I look at the topography. And so if you look at the all the pictures following the nodes in my report, I show you a USGS survey map of the to south and east to west azimuths as you look down from the site. And any deviation from zero elevation I make into account. And so that's why there was a lot of variability in these calculations. It's not only the antenna that is in some highs and lows, but it's also the fact that you're getting away from the antenna, but closer to the main beam. And in some cases, because of topography, you're actually getting into the main beam much earlier. I hope that answers your questions, and if you have any further, I can go into a lot more details if you need me to.
Thank you, Don. You lost me a little on the curved earth part, but I think I understand enough of it and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey,
Nothing else.
Kevin, did you want to add anything from the coverage perspective?
Yeah, so the goal was to basically replace the DAS coverage, but also enhance it. The DAS is over, I think it's 2 decades old and was pretty much designed for mobile cell phone use, like in vehicles, and nowadays that's one of the most limited places people use their phones. So this design utilizes, the same node count, but in a way that enhances people's coverage.
Do you have any numbers on how many residents you expect to be impacted?
Kevin, you have any population counts?
No, actually, population isn't something that I look at too much. I have user data that shows how frequently phone use occurs and what the payload might be for certain customers, or and where they travel. And so the design kind of focuses on that. Where we see the most coverage, where we see the most potential for traffic, phone traffic, is kind of the spots in which we place these nodes.
And you seem to be hitting up, you got a number of sites on Hillside. There was a question about the trails and DCR property there.
Yeah. So AT&T provides service for FirstNet, and which is basically is a first responder network, and the hiking trails and woodsy areas are places in which typically we've had, I think the industry as a whole has had rather poor coverage. So this addresses some of that. Obviously, we can't get too far off the right of way because we don't have poles and power or fiber. But this is an attempt to hit that. We also do see a lot of traffic that is generated from those areas along Hillside. So not only does it improve what first responders would see, it improves what the general customer would get as well. And even if you weren't an AT&T customer, should you place a 911 call in this area, you would connect to us and be able to talk to somebody.
Couple questions. How did you arrive at 10? What are the differences if it's 5 or if it's 4?
So these small cells range in about a third to a half-mile radius, and that's like under ideal conditions. So to cover the length of roadways that we're looking at here, I've stretched these out as far as I can to minimize the cell count. But 10 was the node count that we're replacing from the DAS. So AT&T had figured that this is my starting budget, and I did my job to try to design it with that, while also improving things as much as I could. So if we had half of it, you would probably drop every half mile, or not be able to connect in those areas.
Well, that would depend on where you put them, right? Because there are a few that are clustered.
Well, so if I could have spaced them out further, I would have. With poles being 25 to 35 feet, a small deviation in ground elevation between the two poles can create little gaps. So if I had any less number of nodes, I would actually have coverage holes that would develop.
Just one on the 10. How does the coordination work for installing that number of nodes? Is that instantaneously? Is it over a period of time? And how do you map that out and coordinate with Eversource and other folks?
So Eversource will prepare what's called make-ready work. So for any of the existing or replacement poles, there are wires on the stuff already. Typically, we don't use poles. We can't use poles for transformers. So Eversource will go in, replace the pole, or start, we'd go in and start doing our installation on existing poles. I expect these will all go, once we get permitted and approvals, 6 months. But I expect all of them will go in short order. Some of it depends on Eversource, moving wires, moving equipment. There may be town equipment on certain poles, and the make-ready work is expensive and it's a headache. So sometimes they take time if there's a cable company on, or something else on the pole, some kind of alarm system. All of those people have to be sequenced, moved to the new pole. Existing's a lot easier. Eversource is going to bring us power, and we need a fiber provider to bring us fiber. So those are, for the existing poles, that's usually the thing that takes the longest.
So it takes some time.
It always takes time.
My question is on the operations and maintenance regime for the equipment that's out there. It seems pretty complicated. You're on a structure that belongs to Eversource, and there may be other devices on there. Can you speak to how you maintain the equipment? How do residents of the town contact the company to report faulty equipment? Also, to contextually, this is an area that has seen a growing number of wildfires over the summer. So that's my main question is, what are the processes and procedures, and how can we work together to make sure that these are safe?
Well, each node will have a sign on it, a small tag that has an 800 number to AT&T's. We call it the NOC, Network Operations Center. Each of the nodes, every AT&T site is monitored 24/7 at that location. If there's a power outage or some malfunction of equipment, they get notice. They can remotely shut the unit off. If a pole is damaged, we work with public safety. We can shut the equipment off, but we know something has occurred back at the Network Operations Center. Once it's installed and they get the bugs out and connect it to the network, there's not a lot of maintenance. It's all electronic equipment. We don't have fans, so I know there's a comment about noise. This is just all electronics. It's not going to make any noise. Early on, some of the DAS systems and some of the small cells had cooling fans inside, so you'd hear, the unit go on. This is all passively cooled now, so you don't have that. So there's no mechanicals to generate noise. If something goes wrong with them, the number is there. You call the NOC, call the town. I don't know if Milton is a FirstNet subscriber, but AT&T has a pretty good relationship with public safety. And as Kevin mentioned, we have that FirstNet system that we provide priority and preemptive coverage for first responders. So if something like that were to happen in the network, it's jammed up because of a wildfire, because of some kind of emergency, first responders get first dibs on the spectrum. So the commercial and personal coverage is going to get shut off so that first responders can deal with the issue first.
Not shut off, but reduced.
Shut off, reduced.
Problem is when cars hit those poles,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff, a lot of wires and everything. It could take almost a year to get everything transferred over. I witnessed that on Randolph Ave. They have brand new poles, And like a month down the road, someone could take a brand new pole and take it right off. It's not like no one's trying, but it takes a long time to get it back up and running. I'd like to know what the insurance companies think of all this hardware. Because eventually it costs all of us money. But you said none of this new machinery makes noises.
Right, there are no cooling fans, there's no mechanicals
I
to it,
have a
correct?
friend on Hillside Street, she called me today, and let me know the one outside her house does make humming noise and stuff.
Well, it's electronic equipment, it's going, it's
Right,
like a
but this
computer.
isn't gonna be one of them.
What's-
These
it'll
aren't gonna
have-
be,
If the electronic equipment hums, there'll be a humming noise. If you walk up close to it, but there's no mechanical parts, there's no cooling fans. That's usually the complaint about noise. If you walk by them, you're gonna hear a hum like you walk by your television or anything else, a computer, et cetera, but no fans.
will make a little noise.
Humming, correct.
What is it, what would we paying the town in taxes for these new devices? Do you know?
It's a good question. I don't know if we're taxed. There is a provision under the statute for the town to collect a fee. I think it's $270 a year is the reasonable fee that's allowed, but we haven't had discussions with the town about that yet.
Thank you.
Eversource is our landlord for the most part.
Oh, so you're paying them,
We do pay them.
they're paying the town.
And they replace the poles at our expense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we may have more questions, but I did want to just leave it for public comment right now. Sir, before you go, I just want to enter again our legal language, so we're covered here, all right? We expect to set aside a minimum of 20 minutes for public hearing on today's agenda, and we'll continue, if need be, to the next hearing. So, Mr. Houser, if you would approach. So we're open for public comment.
Yes, I have two questions. One is for for Mr. Perry, and that is, one is for the node number 2, the description for 428 Hillside Street explicitly makes a reference to the Summer Street site. This is not the Summer Street site, this is the Hillside Street site.
Right.
Do you plan to correct that?
I don't know where the error is, if it's in the narrative, I don't think we have.
It's in the
I don't think we have a
narrative.
need,
It's
I'd
in
have
the,
to see
it's in the
it,
narrative, yeah.
we can correct it, we can amend it, but it's the plans that are gonna govern.
So you may or may not correct it.
Well, I can, I mean, if the select board wants it corrected, we'll
Yeah.
correct it.
Would the select board plan to insist on that correction? Is my question.
I think we'll have that discussion once you finish your comments. Just to be careful, this is not intended for this to be sort of a back and forth between the both of you. I think, sir, you can
Okay.
share your
Okay.
comments and you can respond if need be.
Yeah, my second comment is, for the past 45 years, I have done most of the trash pickup along the entire length of Hillside Street, all the way from Chickatawbut, all the way to Randolph Avenue, approximately every 3 weeks. And the 3 worst offenders are fast food places, liquor places, and number 3 is public utilities. So the utility crews, when they come out and make a major change, they typically just discard all the crap along the side of the road that they don't want or that they don't need anymore. And that can include anything from the guy wires, heavy-duty guy wires, the fixtures that the guy wires attached to, which weigh about 15 pounds apiece. We had 2 of the wires were hit by lightning maybe 3 years ago, and so it fried all the rubber insulation, and all that was discarded by the Eversource at the side of the road. So I would hope that the select board would insist that that the cleanup crews clean up all the material that's left over from the from these 10 cell phone installations. Those are my comments.
Appreciate it. Mr. Milano, are there any questions from the members?
Can I just to hit on the Summer Street, I did take a look at my application, I do see that Sumner Street is referenced in the Hillside Streets, Sumner on page 7 of my narrative should be hillside. If the board would amend that, we could deal with that right out of the box.
Mr. Milano, I will come to you to ask you a few questions of how you see this. One question is, what are our options in terms of numbers? Could we ask for fewer than 10 to be built? Are we in good standing to ask for the language to be cleaned with all of the typos before we move forward, as this is a legal document? And are there any other amendments that we would be able to make before taking a vote on this, either at this meeting or a future meeting?
On both of those, I'd wanna circle back and provide the board an answer, so if the board's looking to finalize that, I'd recommend continuing to June 9th, and we can take any additional comments that are received in that intervening time period, and I can provide you a follow-up on both of those. I would, in reading the Sumner Street typo, I read it as a typo as well, because it's referencing how many feet the pole is from the nearest house, and there's a measurement included, and that is all clearly typographical, and as Mr. Perry noted, the plans are what holds. What we have not done and what we would typically do after following a hearing would be just to have council review the orders. But if the board is inclined to continue the hearing, then I could have council review all the grants of location, any tweaks or recommendations they may have in the intervening time period. Generally, the applicant and us are on the same page about that language, but that's another thing that we could also have wrapped up by the 9th.
Thoughts from members? Mr. Gordon? Still in public comment if you'd like.
Can I still ask a question? So I just wanted to know, like, so does Milton get it? I think he said it, but I wasn't sure. Does Milton get something out of them putting sites coverage? Do we get money?
I think you're speaking to the fees that we would have with
Sure.
Eversource.
No, I get it.
You're a billion-dollar company, I think.
There's an annual fee that's been referenced. The tax question, I believe that's just the large cell installations that are taxable, depending on who the landlord is. So the small cells, I don't have an answer on that question right here, but I don't believe so, but I can verify with the assessor's office.
Can you ask for more money?
We can ask for it.
Well, you can get
That's
something
right.
out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like,
I think to your point about asking, that would require some form of precedent. If that's not the precedent or the standard agreements, then we would not have much that we could say there. It's a good point. Thoughts from the members on continuing or voting tonight?
My opinion is that we should move to continue the conversation and get some more information on the application.
Do you need something more from me, or are you talking about internal? I mean, I'm happy to provide whatever the board wants, obviously, but when you say more information from us?
Mr. Milano also
fine.
mentions that we would need to have our town council review.
Oh, sure.
I on that, generally, I would have the board approve it subject to council's review, but in
Okay.
this case, we can reverse that order if
Yeah.
we're buying additional 2 weeks, so.
So would you wanna close the evidentiary portion and move towards, or we can move to continue, you can make that motion.
I would like to move to close the evidentiary portion.
I would
Of this
suggest the
hearing.
board leave the hearing open in case additional questions or comments are raised that the board may wanna consider as part of its deliberations. And so you can continue the hearing.
Oh,
until
continue
night,
the
so
hearing.
it'll be
So
left
we
open.
haven't done this
I know,
before in the
sorry.
time that I've been on the board. This is a new one. Okay, so I would move to continue the public hearing on June 9th, 2026.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
We do need a time specific, though, not to jump in here, but it should be a date and time specific.
June 9th.
June 9th, 2026.
June 9th, 2026. At 7 p.m.
What is it?
7 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Oversheimer.
Yes.
Ms. Nolan. Ms. Hagerty.
Yes.
And yes for myself.
Thank you all.
Is it clear?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody-
Is it clear what the follow-up?
Yeah, I have my homework, and then if members have any questions, feel free to reach out in the meantime, and I'll work with the applicant.
Yeah, in the time in between, we can add any questions we may want to research. We get comments from residents. Thank you.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer, Mr. Hayes. All right. Move to a much simpler portion. We'll move to item 6, presentation by MassDOT regarding Randolph Ave Route 28 Road Diet Pilot.
Mr. Daly, I'm gonna recuse myself on this agenda item.
Don't go home.
Move quickly through the background, maybe. We have a long agenda today.
I'll just say, I mean, it's an important topic, so don't feel like you need to.
We have a presentation, so usually it just takes a minute to join and get. Sure. I thought I saw something flash up, but I don't see an option to share.
Am I shown as a panelist?
I don't know if we have access to share.
I don't
Okay,
see.
that would be why.
I think I, oh wait, sorry, did you drop it? Try it
There we
again.
go.
No, sorry. Unless I have a question, I answer them.
When they're in charge. It's like there's a lag. Okay, there we go. All right, well, thanks for having us back. Happy to be here talking about Route 28 Randolph Avenue, the pilot road diet. We will go ever so briefly through an introduction of why we did this, why we removed lanes from Route 28, review the project timeline, the work to date, remind folks what's out there. We'll recap the community feedback, and then we'll go over our evaluation of the pilot. So we've, at this point, taken data before and after and been able to quantify the safety, the delay, the other things that we said we would use to measure it. And so that's the main point of coming here today. So the reason we did this is a schematic of Route 28 before with 2 lanes in each direction. Due to the crash history along the corridor, which really came up during the public process for the Chickatawbit Roundabout project, some pretty horrible crashes along the corridor, and then ongoing calls for improving safety. We made the decision over the summer to pilot a lane removal, so that's what we usually call a road diet, with the goal of reducing these fatal and serious injury crashes that we're seeing on this part of the road, and then also reducing speeds and conflicts. Just want to say this piece up front. This was always separate from the intersection project, and so the Chickatawbit Road Roundabout project is still moving forward. That contract was actually awarded, and they're working through kind of the contract process so that the contractor can get an NTP. So the roundabout project is not going to experience any sort of delay. It'll just be adjusted to incorporate the road diet results, which I weirdly buried that lead. We generally consider this to be successful, and so Route 28 will remain as is now, and we're going to talk through why. So the roundabout project will be adjusted to match into the cross section that you're seeing out there today. So the timeline, we started talking about this in the summer. We grabbed pre-pilot data collection, so speeds and volumes on Route 28, and then also some of the roads that we expected to be impacted by the road diet, the lane removal. Generally, we consider the road diet to have been in place by Columbus Day weekend. There were adjustments made throughout. So we were welcoming feedback from the public and then also making adjustments as traffic settled in and changed. So we have a map about kind of all the changes that we did during this pilot period. We attended a listening session held by the state legislators in December. In April, things seemed to have settled down from a traffic standpoint. People were making their decisions now that they knew that Route 28 was going to have less capacity. And so we took speeds and volumes at all the same locations as before, in addition to a few more, so that we had something to compare to. And then that says May, but it was this week, maybe middle of last week. I would say the final touch of the pilot was the removal of flex posts between Pleasant and Reed Streets. We got a lot of feedback from residents about their access and the challenges with U-turns at Reed Street. And so we compared that against the safety payoff and decided to remove those flex posts and put in the two-way left turn lane, more consistent with most of the cross-section of this part of Route 28. But throughout, we've been meeting with the town, including meetings with police and fire to make sure that response times were not impacted by the removal of the lanes. We coordinated with Brockton Area Transit and reached out to the T to make sure that the buses that run along this road were not impacting residents outside of Milton as well. And then we meet with DCR as the owners of Chickatobit for coordination on the road diet and other things that they have going on. Some pictures of the current configuration in case people did not drive on this road on the way here. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's it. It's really nice looking, and those are good pictures. So I thought we should hold the slide for longer. Fair enough. Community feedback. So we showed some version of this slide at the listening session, I think, and we've been receiving comments from the project email and phone calls and other ways. A lot of people say it's safer, slower, quieter to use. A lot of our kind of repeat comments, people who are really having a hard time with it, were related to the traffic, the U-turns, access, but sort of tied in second with the increased traffic was people saying that they were supportive of it and thanking us for taking action to try to make it safer. So kind of an array of comments, and we sort of tried to group it by tone on the next slide. And so by the end, we had 37%, so most people saying that this was a positive thing. A similar ratio, 34% of people thought it was negative. They did not like the delays in travel times. Some people saw the benefits but didn't like taking longer to get places. That's our both. And then 17% we shade as light gray, light green, because I think that's, if you remove lanes like this from a road and people feel like they're indifferent to it, for us, that's sort of a vote for safety. So this is how the tone of the feedback landed.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
Prior slide could be good or bad, it's just by subject matter.
Yeah.
And then this slide is accounting for all of those comments. Okay.
Yeah, so this is more about topic.
Yeah.
So, and we reviewed and responded to all of them, and some of them were about like a request for signal timing, right? So I don't know which ones you would consider to be neutral. I mean,
Probably some of the others, honestly. Or just a lot of some folks were just writing in with a specific question where there really was no tone, positive or negative. They just had a clarifying question. We would group that in neutral and different.
Got it.
so we coordinated with the BAT to put a question into their customer service survey that they put out in the spring, just to try to get some feedback from the neighboring communities, and 60% of people felt like this didn't impact their bus rides, 22% liked it, and then 18% were negative. So sort of a similar, almost 50-50 split from the riders of the BAT. Just looking at the corridor now, we've tried to map out the changes that we made throughout this with some timing or times associated with them. So in November, that's when we went out, did observations, tweaked with the signal timing to see if the side street needed more time, if Route 28 did, how things were changing with traffic. So in November, Reedsdale, Reed, and Chickatobit were adjusted. In May. That was our bigger change with the flex post removal, like I mentioned, between Pleasant and Reed, and then do not block the box markings at Ridgewood now that the queues sometimes are extending. That was a comment that we got, so we had our pavement marking contractor out and that should have gone in. And then the really notable one in December, sorry, it's on the bottom of the screen, so that's out of order. The town of Milton establishing the no left turn onto Highland restriction as a response to the cut through traffic that was in the Clifton Road neighborhood that we heard a lot about at the listening session. And we were able to take data in that area, and I think that measure was fairly successful, at least by what we're seeing. Okay, I'll hand it off to Jessica to go through the pilot evaluation.
Thanks. For the pilot evaluation, we looked at a variety of criteria, but the most important ones to us were the safety focus criteria. So we looked at the trends that we are seeing in safety and speed, since the main goal of the pilot was to reduce the likelihood of fatal injury or serious injury crashes. We also measured traffic along Route 28 and some of the adjacent and intersecting roadways. We took a look at the intersection traffic operations and travel times along 28, coordinated with the transit agencies to understand impact to transit, which was covered in the ridership survey. We also met with the town, including emergency access, to consider any impacts to access as well as the abutter access. For the pilot evaluations, we did several field visits. Those are listed on the screen. So we collected data before the pilot road diet was in place, and then at a couple points during the pilot. So in November, as well as in April, and kind of what we used as kind of our final pilot measurements that you'll see throughout here were the April 8th and 11th dates. In addition to some of the on-the-ground field information, we also utilize some continuous data sources. So for speed data, we utilize the speed feedback signs that are along the corridor, as well as some anonymized GPS probe data that gave us speed and travel time along the corridor. And those vary slightly because the speed feedback signs are capturing information of vehicles passing by these specific points. Whereas the probe data is more of like a corridor-wide data. But they're both collecting throughout the pilot, so they gave some interesting data sets. And then we also looked at crashes. So we looked at crashes for the same 6-month time period that the pilot was in place for years leading up to the pilot, excluding the COVID impacted years. And then we looked at the 6 months that the pilot was in place, and that crash history. So Kayla mentioned that we collected traffic counts. In blue are all of the count locations that we got both before the pilot was in place and then when it was in place. And then we mentioned we added a couple more locations just based on some areas of concern. That's what's shown in red. So we added some additional pilot count locations just to help complete our picture of the data. And this just lists them all that are shown on the figure. For safety data, one of the things we were looking at was conflict points. Conflict points provide a nice reference of impact to safety because the number and type of conflict points can influence how likely a crash is to occur. And so with the change in design that the road diet brought, we were able to significantly reduce conflict points by 31% along the corridor, which helps reduce the likelihood that a crash will occur. So I mentioned that we collected the crash data throughout the pilot. So that was about 6 months of data. 6 months is not enough time to be statistically significant. We usually like multiple years of data because there's natural variation. That's why we don't present exact numbers here. But we did look at it to understand what trends it's showing. And it is in line with what we would expect, and it's trending in the direction that we want to see. So this pie chart just shows the portion of crashes before the pilot was in place that resulted in injury, and then the proportion of crashes with the pilot in place. And you can see that the amount of crashes that resulted in injury decreased significantly, which is in line with what we were anticipating based on the design and in line with that reduction of conflict points. Along with that, we took a look at the other trends of what are the crash types. And the different crash types tend to result in different severities depending on the type. And before the pilot was put in place, the most common crash type was an angle crash. Those tend to be more severe, like your right angle collisions. Once the pilot was put in place, the angle crashes reduced significantly. You can see in blue. And then rear ends did increase to become the most predominant crash type, which is generally in line with what we would expect as we are reducing conflict points, but increasing the level of traffic congestion on the corridor. We also wanted to understand the impact that the pilot had on vehicle speeds. The reason we care about speed so much is that they can increase or decrease the likelihood that a crash would result in an injury. The slower a vehicle's going, the better their field of vision is, and the less time you would need to react to something unexpected in the roadway. Looking at the information from the speed feedback signs for weekdays, the average speed decreased by 3 miles an hour following the pilot, and the 85th percentile speed decreased by 5 miles an hour. So that's just averaging the information from those select speed feedback sign locations. When we looked at the corridor-wide probe data, it showed a slightly larger decrease, with the average speed decreasing 6 to 8 miles an hour and the 85th percentile speed decreasing 7 to 8 miles an hour. We also wanted to map that out, though, to show that the speed reduction was not just during the peak time period. So we knew that we were going to be increasing traffic congestion, and we wanted to make sure that we're not seeing speed decrease during the times of congestion and then an increase outside of those times. So the dotted line represents pre-pilot data and the solid line represents pilot data. And you can see that there's a pretty consistent decrease. This is northbound from the speed feedback. And here's southbound. It follows a pretty similar decrease throughout the day. And then looking at the same charts, but with the probe data does show a more significant drop in speed during those AM and PM times shown in the green there. You can see that speeds get pretty low from congestion, but that the pre versus post-pilot decrease is pretty consistent. And that's southbound. We wanted to measure the traffic counts along Route 28 to understand what type of traffic diversion we might be seeing. So as we're reducing the number of lanes on Route 28, is the traffic going to shift somewhere inappropriate where there might be safety issues? And generally looking at the data across the roadways, the trends we saw were that as anticipated, the lane reductions lowered volumes on Route 28. It also lowered volumes on the majority of intersecting roadways as capacity was reduced. There were some localized increases in traffic volume observed on Reed Street traveling westbound, Hallen Avenue traveling eastbound, and Reedsdale Road traveling westbound. On Hallen Avenue, that's in an area where there's turn restrictions. And generally what we saw was a decrease in Hallen Avenue departing Route 28, where turns are now restricted, and an increase on Reed Street, where turns may be shifting to. We mentioned previously that the town of Milton put in turn restrictions along the Clifton, Martin, Buckingham, Spafford Road area to reduce cut-through traffic. And the information that we collected from these areas seemed to support that that's been an effective treatment at reducing the amount of cut-through that those neighborhoods were experiencing. So our general takeaways from this was that Route 28 traffic shifted, but we didn't see any significant shifts to local roads that would indicate a safety concern, and that the diverted traffic likely redistributed across the network or utilized the highway system. On Route 28, I mentioned that there was a drop in volume. This slide just shows the various locations along the corridor that were measured and the change in volume. So it ranged anywhere from about 3,000 vehicles per day to 5,000 vehicles per day less with the lane reduction in place. And then the next few slides map out the change in volume along the corridor. And so blue represents a reduction. The darker the blue, the more the reduction. Red represents an increase in volume with, the larger the increase, the darker the red. The purple represents roadways that experienced a change of less than 100 vehicles per day. So a quite low change in volume. And so, as I had mentioned on the previous slide, there are directions of Hallen, Reed, and Reedsdale that did see an increase, but otherwise the area stayed steady or saw decreases. And then moving south through the, sorry, that skipped a slide. Moving south through the corridor, we did not see any increases in the before-after traffic counts collected through this area. We did see some moderate decreases in one direction on Hillside Street and on Chickatawbit Road. We also wanted to collect some of the adjacent corridors that don't necessarily intersect, but might be used as alternate routes. And generally, we didn't see any, increase or decreases too significant here, but we did see some moderate increases on Canton Ave and directionally on Blue Hills Parkway and Unquity of about 100 to 300 vehicles per day. We collected travel times in September before the pilot was in place, early into the pilot in November, and then later into the pilot in April. Generally, we saw that travel times increased with the pilot in place. We also looked at probe data, so looking at the months of September, November, and April. And similarly, it showed an increase in travel time along Route 28 with the road diet. For feedback on access, through our meetings with the town and emergency services, we were basically heard no adverse impacts have been made to response times. Feedback we've received is that, turning has been safer with the turn lanes in place and to turn against a single lane of traffic. However, it can be more difficult to find a gap during peak hours to turn. So sometimes it takes longer, but feels simpler. Challenges with the U-turns at Reedsdale Road and Reed Street were something that we heard a lot in the early pilot days. And we've mitigated that with the recent flex post removal between Reed Street and Pleasant Street, which removes the need for those two U-turns that were previously reported to be difficult. So with all of those findings, we deemed the pilot successful based on the positive safety trends, the reduction in conflict points, the reduction in vehicle speed, The side street access improvement, we were able to mitigate the access concerns that we heard for driveways. The diversion activity measured was manageable, and there were no concerns reported from the emergency responders. So with that, we considered that this was successful, and the impacts to traffic operations and travel times were ones that we had anticipated, but consider acceptable to achieve the safety goals of the pilot of the reduced injury likelihood. And as Kayla mentioned earlier, the Route 20 at Chickatawbit roundabout will be adjusted to reflect the road diet pilot.
That's all we had.
Yeah.
We can go back to anything if it's fine. It's a lot of data and information.
Thank you. I'll do comments from the members first. I think we have some residents here who may have some things they want to say. So while we did not have public comment on the schedule for this, I will open up public comment for about 90 seconds each, if that's okay. But first, comments from the members. Sure, so.
Ladies, I live that road, it's dramatically better. It's very successful, and I've heard from a lot of people, they love it. And you did move the flex pipes in front of my driveway, it didn't bother me, it bothered my son and daughter more than anything. I'm sure you heard from my daughter, but it's just been a far cry different road. You gotta deal with traffic, I understand that, and just a safer road. That night, when those 3 individuals got killed, I didn't see it happen, but I came upon it. And in memory of them, this has turned out to be a successful, for the 3 people who lost their lives, credited. This is the end result, sorry to say. Thank you.
Others?
I have a list, maybe I'll do a few and then let you guys go and then do mine. My preamble is just overall agree with what John said. What I've been hearing has been due to the safety improvements. It's a difficult project, but due to the safety impacts, the feeling in town is mostly positive. That's not an easy thing to walk away with a project like this. I commend your team's professionalism in rolling this out. And I also just wanted, I think the select board last year, did a great job responding to residents along the way. So that's a credit to Winston and John and Ben and Richard. So that, just putting that out there, just a couple questions. Just on the, I just want to flesh out where we're at on the cut through topic right now. To me, that's sort of the last lingering piece where we can bring this from like a B+ to an A or an A- to an A. I don't know. And I saw the data, so I'm just trying to kind of understand what window is left here to kind of leverage your guys' resources and expertise to sort of partner strategically to think about some of those last few areas. Canton comes to mind. I'm surprised by the numbers on Hillside, but just maybe we just talk, maybe not focus on a particular street at the moment, but where do you guys feel like we're at the process in terms of trying things out to make sure we're maximizing those situations? A few ideas residents have asked about is, I saw the November signal, timing there. So do you feel for that example, like have you sort of exhausted what you could do there to help with traffic? Is there more you can kind of keep thinking about to test things out, to, continue to keep an eye on maybe trying to drop those numbers a little bit more on the cut through? So just, if you could just speak to where you're at on cut throughs and thinking about it, and if there's remaining window, just to try to make the most of those situations.
I'll go first and then maybe you could speak to whether or not we feel like through timing we've maximized everything. I mean, we're still here, so there's not really a window. We won't be monitoring this quite as closely as we have been over the past few months, but of course, it's something we're still gonna check in on, monitor through our pro data and see how things change. And then happy to take, support the town through data collection. We grab the traffic counts at Canton. We do have on-call consultants to check signal timing at some of the intersections that weren't right in our scope, but seem to be impacted. And so the challenge with like the state coming in and helping with implementation of mitigation is just that we don't actually own the roads that the diversion is sometimes happening on. But we're always happy to partner and support some of the mitigation that could come through. You really need town buy-in with, and this town really supports safety and seems to prioritize that. But if there was a way for us to partner on speed humps, other things in the toolkit for speed management, like we're certainly open to it. But for what we could do within our study area, besides maybe like a reconstruction at Reedsdale or trying to free up some of these pinch points or something, I feel like we do feel like we've kind of exhausted the signal timing and the tweaks.
Yeah, and so the signal timings are a bit nuanced because it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation where we want to prioritize time on 28 over time on the intersecting roadways so that we can keep flow on traffic 28 as good as possible, but also because the worse that the traffic on 28 gets, the more cut through you will get. And so some of that was intentionally keeping the timings on the side streets low, as long as queues were generally manageable. I know queues on Chickatobit are not generally manageable, but elsewhere we observe them to be generally manageable. So we intentionally tried to keep them low on, say, Hillside Street, Reed Street, so that we wouldn't encourage people to leave 28 and then pop out the signal from those side streets. So there's always room to change timings, but I'm not sure that the results would be any more favorable in reducing cut-through traffic.
And I'm gonna exceed my expertise here, but is that usually for signal timing, like aligning on greens, or do you ever utilize like dynamic timing?
Yeah, I mean, generally the signals out here are actuated, so they're using detection. So we've got some minimum recall settings, and then when a call is placed on, from the side street, that'll trigger, to once the main line hits its maximum to switch over to the side street. So there is some dynamic room at play. But if you mean like adaptive signals, we weren't going into that level of signal equipment install with the pilot. Because you need more equipment than what we were prepared to roll out in the time this was done.
Okay, so it sounds like on that, there's still a line of communication between the town on any opportunities with, I don't know, perhaps additional counts. I'm just kind of throwing that out there to see, because that seemed to me would kind of seem like a thing to kind of check to see if there's more action that would help. But just putting that out there, I mean, I think could be something for us to just, like I said, just tweak some things. I'll just make one more comment. I'll open it up to you guys. This year, we do have units coming up on Randolph Ave, 701, 703. And just wanted to see if that's on your guys' radar, if you have thoughts on that, particularly just the U-turn dynamic that would come if that's a right turn only. Are we, I just want to sort of make sure from a planning perspective that's on your radar, and you think we're sort of accounting for that the best we can in terms of just the U-turn option to head into the city from there.
So we did remove the U-turn at Reed Street with the latest changes that were rolled out. we were coordinating, we got the plans for the development, to look at, you know, what their traffic plans showed. And we got the studies to look at, you know, the numbers they were projecting for trips. I'm not concerned in terms of general intersection operations with the numbers they were projecting. I didn't see any specific plans they had on how they plan to address the turn restrictions, but we didn't impact anything from what they would have already had to be doing before the pilot was in place.
I don't wanna hog the mic here, so.
All important. My biggest question is, can we talk about the roundabout? That continue, I think, will be a big point of contention for our residents. So how are we thinking about that roundabout now with this, with Randolph Ave having been changed, as well as with the new developments going in? Has there been a new study done since we thought about putting that roundabout in? Is it still considered in the same way with the changes?
The roundabout project is moving forward. A big benefit of the roundabout was speed management and reducing speeds that even our signal improvement through the road die of bringing in protected lefts doesn't have. So with that having been the #1 crash location in the state, even doing the road die and improving safety the way that we have doesn't get you the benefits of the roundabout project, which was already close to advertising when we started this road diet. What is being done and has been done, but we sort of needed to see the results of this pilot evaluation before making any changes, was right sizing the roundabout a little bit more and considering if you needed it to be 2 lanes on all circulating, and trying to tie that in. So the team has been sort of concurrently looking at that.
It's gonna be 1 or 2.
Yeah, so the team's been sort of concurrently looking at that because we couldn't really make a change to the project being advertised. We didn't wanna lose that funding and it's a really important project and the roundabout will still have safety improvements, so that is moving forward, yeah.
That's moving forward, as you said.
Yep.
Can we set a cadence where you are here to talk to our residents as that's going on?
Wouldn't be me, the roundabout team is different, but
It's a
I
different team?
believe, yeah, the district, Mark's here, so he's hiding.
Yeah, probably in the fall sometimes, that's when it's probably gonna start that you might see something on the roadway.
Okay.
Right now, like Kayla said, that the bid was awarded, but they haven't been given notice to proceed, so a lot of the early activities that'll be over the summer is just mobilization by the contractor, putting together their schedule and everything like that, so it probably won't be to the fall till you see something out there. And then there'll be a communications group with the project itself.
So with the road diet, we did have an off-ramp if this did not work, that we would go back or go to some other configuration. I'm assuming that's not available with the roundabout, like once that's in. Is that where we stay?
Yeah, it's a
So it's a pen, not a
To
pencil?
revert to a signal, or do you mean,
To revert to 2 lanes.
do you mean to revert to 2 lanes?
Revert to 2 lanes. Is there an argument?
Actually, we're looking into that. We're trying, like Kayla said, we're trying to right size it, but we're trying to do so that it doesn't prevent us from doing modification in the future, that if we had to go back to 2 lanes, we could, so they're still looking at that.
Okay. Second question on the cut-through counts. I saw the one you did was November of 25. Is there a plan to have another one done on the cut-throughs?
For which location?
I just said cut-through, said you had the dates that you would come out to check them, and the cut-through was only November of 2025.
Those were more of observations. So we did the counts in September and then in April. In November, we sent some folks out there to drive through and, you know, stand and observe through the neighborhoods and at the intersections in that neighborhood what we were seeing with cut through, because that's when we started hearing the feedback from residents that they were seeing cut through activity. So as of right now, I don't think we do have plans for further data collection in that area. I know in the fall, we were able to get information from some dynamic signage that the town had placed out there in response. I'm not sure if that's still out there right now, but if it is, that would be pulling data.
We move it as necessary.
And the comments you all receiving, ones that were they negative in the terms of, best you can surmise, were they negative in terms of put it back or negative and make it better?
Probably both, but there were certainly some folks that wanted to voice their, views against keeping the pilot. There were certainly folks that wanted, things to be reverted back.
I think we all probably have a few more questions.
Yeah, can I just, thank you so much for all of your work on this and making, Randolph Avenue safer. You talked a little bit about kind of how you collect before this project safety trends and data, and how do you, I know there was the deaths, but how do you kind of understand like where you prioritize, what you're gonna work on, and how do you kind of go about that piece?
Yeah, I mean, we prioritize injuries and deaths, of course. But essentially we use crash data, which we map out.
So there are parts of Randolph Avenue that were top 5% crash segments based on more data than we were able to collect. That's usually based on like the past 3 years of data. So we already knew that this corridor in certain segments had like higher crash rates than other parts of the state. So that, in addition to the crashes that happened, the fatals brought us to this road. And since we can't, in 6 months say to everyone we reduce crashes, what we look at is sort of like the indicators for whether or not we will think that we will have changed that when we look at this again in 3 years. And that's why we showed the slide about conflict points, which is just like statistically how likely are the crashes to happen. And then the speeds are what we're really after. So when they happen, are they less severe? That's kind of, we use the data to bring us here. We knew that it was a problem. We do that at the statewide level. And those are because we've only had this much time, why we're talking about trends.
Yeah, and then since we did have a wealth of pre-pilot data and there was, past studies done along the corridor, we were able to tailor the road diet design to the safety problems that were being seen. So looking at specific treatments at intersections like left turn lanes, protected left turn movements, that's in response to the documented safety issues.
Thank you. I'm gonna open it up
Can
for,
I just ask?
okay, John.
This for the gentleman in the back there, I have a bunch of people I know up the top of Randolph Ave. He said without that light, it's gonna be harder and harder for them to pull out of their driveway and get in if there's no light to stop the traffic. They're gonna keep coming around that circle. And it's just gonna make it harder and harder for them to pull in and out. So and then I read in the Globe, Connecticut's doing a lot of roundabout. Reason, it saves on the intersection with the lights. It's cheaper. Put that right in the Globe. I didn't make that up. It's just economically better than having lights.
That's not the reason why we're doing
But
it.
there's one more question. What about Chickatawba? They're supposed to be closing that road.
Kelly, you wanna handle it?
No, sir, then that just refutes the whole. Right?
That's a DCR roadway there, and it's their process they're going
Yeah.
through.
DCR has been managing the process.
So does that have no impact on the roundabout if DCR is able to move
No, I
independently?
mean, you would still need the leg for certain things. I don't think they were gonna close it for the full extent. We've coordinated with them and the details are, they're still working through them. And so it's not something that we would let preclude a safety improvement like the roundabout. And even if they were to partially close it, sometimes or for parts of it, there's still benefits to Route 28 itself and Randolph with the speed reduction that you get from a roundabout. And the side street access that people,
Oh, these are driveways.
yeah, the driveways the road diet doesn't prove that anyway. You're crossing against one lane and people are going slower versus the two. That was,
They have the red light stopping them.
no,
up
I
at the
understand.
top.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of leadway to get in and out.
I think that,
Just one more, down where you have the island from the Wallison Golf Course down to Reed, you ever think about doing curb and some trees there? Instead of the yellow reflector?
For this road to be reconstructed,
likely that is what will happen.
Losing more and more of those yellow reflectors,
Yeah, I mean, they're on the inside and less of a,
so there might be an option for some trees.
we're gonna track how much it takes to maintain it and consider that, yep.
I think John's points are to my question on our continued meeting cadence, particularly around the roundabout. Because residents are who are worried about that traffic not stopping, them not being able to get out of their driveways. Those are folks that we're gonna need to serve and speak with about those changes, because it is a lot. We gotta make sure that they're okay with it. So whatever we can do in the build-up to this roundabout to address those issues, I think would be really important for us here in town.
We'll work through the town administrator and get connected to the roundabout team. It's a slightly different, we coordinate, but it's a slightly different team than us right here.
So I'll coordinate. I'll just open it up for public comments. We'll go one at a time. If you all could just come right here to the table, 90 seconds apiece.
Thank you, John Corey, 1452 Canton Avenue. I think it's gonna be, what do you have, 90 seconds or
Go
something
ahead.
like that? Well, of all the data that you guys showed, the number one diverted traffic road that the town owns is Canton Avenue. That was the highest. And you talked about mitigation, and I just wanna know what we're gonna do together, town, staff, select board, advocating for the residents and the DOT to build some friction, help us build some friction on that road. I testified earlier, we have cars going, I know that they're 60 miles an hour. We have families that won't even go out, they won't walk on the road. And we have now more cars, and I would argue if there's 300 more cars a day, those 300 cars are specifically cut-through cars that are looking only to get from A to B. They're not more neighborhood traffic going into more houses or something like that. It's strictly cut-through traffic, that 300. And
30
those are
seconds.
the fast-moving cars. So how can you help us, the residents?
Ms. Hazy, would you, if you don't mind, you've had one opportunity if she could go.
Oh, sure.
Amy Morrison, 58 Clifton Road. Thank you again for all of your work on this project. I will say overall Randolph Ave feels much safer when driving. I do have a concern, and this is recent in the spring, with specifically with the gridlock at Reedsdale and Pleasant Street and Randolph Ave, that intersection where the 7-Eleven store is. I've witnessed several times just in the past week while driving through there, children trying to get across and weaving their way through gridlock and cars still trying to turn past the light. So I think there's still an opportunity for some safety measure there. I will say, speaking for Clifton Road, the traffic volume is significantly lower during those peak rush hours. And thank you again to the select board for your support. I do feel that there is still an opportunity for some enforcement of the no left turn. Milton Police has been very responsive when called, but we do still, unfortunately see some cut through, although it has been significantly reduced. So we would ask that those no left turn restrictions remain in place. And especially, and I know I'm over time, I just wanted to ask if there could be some continued monitoring of the traffic on those 4 ladder streets in light of the 7-Eleven apartment complex coming online. I do worry about that, continuing to have an impact on the neighborhood, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to praise you for the job well done as far as I'm concerned. I live on Hillside Street and have for 46 years. And for the first time since I've lived there, it now feels safe to turn left on Chickatawbut, northbound on Randolph Avenue, or left onto Hillside Street, because there are dedicated green advanced arrows. So a reminder that over the 45 years I've lived there, there have been not just 3 deaths, but 15 deaths. Think of all the lives that we have saved and all the people who've affected, that we have saved from the pain and agony. So nothing but praise for the project.
Thank you, sir. We have a couple more from the members.
Just one last, again, great presentation, good job. I think this is just so important to the community. Just on bike safety, interested just how you guys think about that with respect to Randolph. Definitely some resident feedback came in around that. I don't even know, I don't even ask because I don't know what you think about it on Randolph. I see the bigger shoulders. Some feedback came around just better defined lanes, or I'm just interested in your thinking on bike safety or options on Randolph.
Yeah, we sort of approach this as a sort of a one problem at a time.
Yeah.
And we discussed whether or not we should stripe the shoulders as bike lanes, but with the speeds the way they were pre-pilot, we felt like we would have been encouraging people to do something that like they think is safe because we striped it that way, but normally we wouldn't put unprotected bike lanes up against vehicles traveling at those speeds. Now that we've decided the pilot was successful, it's something we can discuss and talk about options for in a more long-term way or even more quick build solutions. But we sort of had the same preliminary thoughts of the people you're talking to. I hope the people who are riding on it already do enjoy the slower speeds and the increased space. To make it comfortable for everyone would require a bit more work than what we were doing with the pilot.
Just to push on that just a little bit to clarify kind of who should be running with that for that example. 'Cause to John's point in terms of the median, if we wanted to spruce up the median, for lack of a better description, if we wanted to see if there was capacity on this area for, now there's maybe room for a shared use path on that would be protected because it'd be part of the sidewalk. So like if that was a big reconstruction project, made an allusion to that, is that Mass DOT who drives the boat on a big tip type project, or would it be that's where the town could push for MassDOT to be looking at that? Because I feel like is that the scale we're kind of talking about, like a very large investment type project?
Probably be a pretty significant investment, assuming you would want to be widening sidewalks and so there's drainage, there's utilities. Without looking at it completely, it would probably be a reconstruction project. Towns initiate projects on state-owned roads and work with designers and try to get a project to a place where it could be funded either by the state or by the MPO. So it's not something that necessarily the town couldn't take initiative on. For us, we would need to evaluate like the overall needs of the road and compare it to all of the other roads in the state.
Sure.
And so I don't have that with me now to know like how well it would rank for something that we would initiate today. It's something I think
Community support and initiation and projects, especially if we wanna get around the MPO tip, is highly recommended.
Okay, that's helpful, just to help us think about our next steps as well. Thank you.
Anything else from the members?
Just one thing, you'll see, we're actually finishing up, we haven't finished the two-way left turn lane for Pleasant tonight. There are actually people out there as we speak right now out there doing pavement markings, and they'll also be installing the do not block the boxes at Ridgewood tonight as well. And then we're gonna be coming in and doing some sign work in the next week or two as well, so just to make sure we wrap up and also replace those flex posts that are missing.
Ones that got clipped.
So we'll leave it in good shape.
Thank you. If there are no other questions from the members, I'll just say thank you for the work you've done. Even though you come in and face the tough questions, it's because we want the best for our residents, and you've been incredibly responsive. And for us as a board, I think the feedback we've gotten has been largely positive. And we've been able to move very quickly. We're less than a year into this, and I think it's been a good collaboration, piece of teamwork. So thank you all. We'll combine all of our questions or updates or things that we'd want from you, and the town administrator will send those forward. So Look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Members, you have to stay, don't follow everyone to sleep. This is gone.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
If
Caleb.
anyone sees Megan out there,
Yeah,
tell her to
Jonas
come
is
in. So now we get a little palate cleanser before we get back to the good stuff.
Good job, guys.
Now we need Richard back in.
This is like time.
They said you have to stay, though, sorry.
We want those ladies to get a raise, Megan.
You do a good job.
They did.
Megan, let it be known, you have nothing to do with any payroll.
Payroll.
Okay, so we'll move to something a little quicker. 7, the Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee Composition, Charge, Term, and Appointments. Ms. Milano, correct me if I am wrong, but this is to fill the final spot on the Housing Production Plan, a collaboration between us, the Planning Board, and the Affordable Housing Trust. We had a question going back, right, if we're doing appointees or members from the board. I think as appointed now, the Planning Board has selected 2 members, Affordable Housing Trust has selected 2 members, and we currently have 1 with an opening for an appointee or a member of the board. And Megan Dolan is our current on this. I would volunteer to join Megan on the Housing Production Plan. I think I'm a little light on committees, or I have a little space if you'd be okay with that, or someone would nominate.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Winston Daly to serve as one of the 2 select board appointees to the Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee.
That's it. I accept. All right, we'll go around. Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
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 And me, yes. All right. And then a discussion and approval of,
Can I interrupt for one
Yes, sir.
moment? Lynn, can you, sorry, did we ever actually vote on the charge itself? Okay, if the board is comfortable with the
Oh.
charge itself, if we could actually
Yes.
formally, I know we formed the committee, but we haven't actually approved the charge. So the charge is as displayed. Yeah, now, I did include in the packet, so this is what we had running along, but the select board never voted actually to approve this and to create it, so that would be helpful to.
okay, you want me to read it in? Okay.
Unless there's any other changes, it doesn't have to be read, unless there's any other changes to this, it could be voted.
No changes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the formation of the Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee and the charge as written on the screen.
Motion made,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Obersheimer?
Yes.
Ms. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Haggerty?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, number 8. Pilot Committee Charge and Composition to add a member of the Board of Park Commissioners. Mr. Milano, do you want to take some part for that?
Yes, thank you. There is currently a pilot committee that's represented largely of a member of the select board and then a couple of residents, but we had been approached by Carolyn Cahill, who's the current chair of the park commissioners, inquiring as to whether the select board would consider adding a park commissioner to that, as there are relationships between the parks department and the large landowners in town in terms of use of fields and facilities.
I think I would say we should be in support of this, in that the parks are using Milton Academy and Curry, and perhaps there be maybe some more in the future that they should have a spot and try to help us in pilot. So I would take a motion for so moved. Motion to add. Take a motion.
Everyone's looking at me to make the motion.
No, I'm waiting. Are you gonna make one or I can make
Make
it?
it, make it.
Make it
We're gonna
first,
have
go ahead.
everyone practice.
I make a motion to add a member of the Board of Park Commissioners to the pilot committee charge and composition.
Motion made,
Second.
motion seconded by Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Obersheimer stepped out, but I think, oh, he's back. Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Ms. Nolan,
Yes.
Member Haggerty,
Yes.
myself, yes, Mr. Obersheimer.
The
Motion on the floor is to add a member of the park commissioners to the pilot board?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I like this idea a lot, and I'm really glad she brought it forward, so it's a great idea.
All right, moving to 9, the Labouré College closure and sale and appraisal. This is a discussion about Labouré that's coming online. I believe Mr. Milano has a presentation. I think one note to make for us as a board is that we should keep this relatively high level and not discuss anything around price or any specifics in that matter, because that would need to be in executive session. Mr. Milano?
Sure, thank you. So I put together a couple of slides just to frame the conversation and help the board be aware of the various decisions that have to be made and some timeline implications, and then certainly turn it back to the board for a discussion. But so just in terms of informing everybody where things stand today, what has happened is once we were aware of the closure of Labouré College and we're in touch with both Curry and Labouré about those transitions, we did reach out to better understand what this campus might offer in terms of a town asset. So we had a walkthrough with both representatives from Milton Public Schools and Consolidated Facilities in April. The school building committee has talked about it at a couple of meetings, and they have it on their agenda for further discussion tomorrow night at their meeting. And the school committee had a lengthy discussion on May 20th at school committee level, talking about potential programming options that might fit at this campus. It was a good conversation, and it's worth watching if you have not. A lot's still on the table, but they did talk about some options and the merits and disadvantages of some of them, and continue that work. So they are picking up that conversation on June 3rd at their next meeting. And the school committee is really focused on programming. And then we'll let the school building committee assist and advise in terms of how a program might fit or not fit at this location. So the school building committee is currently working to secure the services of an architectural firm to do that kind of test fit analysis, identify what kind of code upgrades would be triggered for a renovation, what a renovation might look like, and crucially, what an addition would need to look like, because any of the options the school committee looked at would require an addition. So we just want to be clear about that. So that work's going on, and then the homework for the select board related to Labouré, if there's an interest in trying to acquire this property, we'll go through here. So I just wanted to broadly first just talk about in terms of land acquisition. The last piece of property the town acquired was the land adjacent to St. Agatha's for the fire station. So this process would play out pretty similar, though not completely similar. Select board would be charged with negotiating and signing some sort of a conditional agreement or a purchase and sale for a piece of property that would be conditional upon funding and town meeting approval. So town meeting vote would be required to both acquire the property and then also appropriate the funds to purchase a piece of land. In this case, with Labouré, it is likely we would need a ballot question for a debt exclusion because of the potential cost of the property would be more than our operating budget can just accommodate. So we would need that dedicated source of revenue from the taxpayers to fund that additional cost in the budget. And then as kind of a separate process is what's going to happen there. If it's a municipal project or a school project, that would also require a town meeting vote or town meeting action to appropriate money for a project. So that will be a separate and a later vote if there's a project there. And then if the town were to just buy it and then sell it later, again, town meeting would be required to authorize a sale or a lease of the property. So, one group of actions to acquire, a second group of actions to do a project, or alternatively to dispose of the property if that was the ultimate decision. But the key takeaways for right now is this board has the authority to enter into a purchase and sale that's conditional upon town meeting and a ballot question. In terms of the select board, I've identified some key decision points and some key considerations. There are probably others, I'm certain there are, but kind of the primary one is just obviously a lot of energy is going into evaluating it as a school building. So is the board's interest in potentially acquiring this land only if it offers potential for a school project, or is the interest to just acquire it as an asset and will engage in a process to determine the best use of that regardless of whether it works for a school or not. Because of the time it'll take to evaluate school programming, school fit, school cost, we might lose some time if we're awaiting that analysis rather than just moving forward on acquisition of it as an asset. And then obviously if the board is generally interested in, we should begin process for securing an appraisal. I solicited one quote just to get a sense of cost and scale of cost, so it was about $14,000. We'll have to solicit some additional quotes to satisfy procurement, but that'll give you kind of a ballpark number as to what that might run us. We have to be mindful of the MSBA aspect here, where the MSBA feasibility study agreement, which outlines what we will study, is a K-5 for 495 students or a grade 7-8 building for 660 students. And based on just kind of overall size of the campus and the existing buildings there, those options really don't appear to be a good fit. So if we were to proceed with the school project, we need to have a conversation about the MSBA about whether they would participate in some alternative enrollment configuration, or if it would be a town project on our own. So that's something we reached out to the MSBA today to ask to have this conversation to better understand how they would be looking at it. But that might go to overall school project cost evaluation as whether the MSBA is a participant or not. In terms of procurement, in acquiring land, there's not a lot there that's required of the town to follow because this is a unique piece of property. There's a provision in Mass General laws that allows for a city or town to buy land if it offers a unique opportunity. You know, if it's a school project, obviously the likelihood of another school coming on the market is low. So it's unique in that sense. So there's not a lot of process for procurement, which is helpful because we have other processes that we need to adhere to. And then lastly, just on timeline, with the state election coming up, we obviously would try to minimize our special elections. However, to put a question on the state election ballot, we have to notify the state by August 5th. So it shrinks our timeline to have a decision made as to whether to put a question on the ballot. I included what a debt exclusion ballot question typically looks like below. As you can see, there's no specific amount of money. It's just, will you, taxpayer, vote to allow us to increase your taxes to pay for the cost of doing something? That's how a debt exclusion is written. So while you wouldn't necessarily need to have a done deal by August 5th, if you don't ultimately get to a place where there's an agreement, there might be a ballot question on the ballot that people don't need to vote for, which is not the best look in the world. And then the other factor I just wanted to flag is that right now there are currently 11 ballot questions in the hopper to be on that ballot. So this would be ballot question number 12 or 13 on that ballot. So that would be an extensive ballot. It would be good cost avoidance to not have a special election. But because of the August 5th deadline to meet, because of the number of ballot questions, I just wanted to flag those as things to think about and the board to evaluate as we go through this. And then on the agenda, we did include a reference to the Atherton Street Fire Station project. I don't have a reference in the slides, but that's just to say that our plan was to try to have that question on the state election ballot. But if ultimately perhaps a special election makes more sense, then a question for this board will be, do we put those together on a special election ballot? That's like a standalone Milton election that won't have 11 other ballot questions for people to turn the page through first. So just all kind of pieces here. And then again, on the agenda, we have included a special town meeting right related to this because based on what we set for a ballot question date, if we set one for acquisition, we would want to also tee up the town meeting to be approximately in that same time frame. So if, again, we're looking at an alternative date for a special election, then we don't have to worry. We can work on that special town meeting date for later. If we're committed to November ballot questions, then that special town meeting should be sometime in mid-October. So that's, I think, some of the moving parts. I just wanted to try to give an overview of what those moving parts are. I think the primary question and real big picture in terms of are we acquiring it for a school only or acquiring it for all potential future uses or resale or what, really sets kind of some of the dominoes in motion, but these are the different hoops we'll need to move through if folks are interested in acquiring this piece of property. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, to take it over.
Yes, so let me try to summarize what's here for us in discussion. One, elaborate, as the body, do we feel that we should move forward in acquiring regardless of use? If we want to go school, to have it as an asset for the town and then decide what will happen later. We know the schools have been talking, the opportunity for perhaps that either with the MSBA's approval or going for that pre-K kindergarten. But do we want to acquire it regardless and say, we want to start that process, which involves us getting an appraisal and moving through the purchase and sale. Then also, do we want to couple this with Atherton? I did a bad job of saying we're kind of discussing 9, 10, and 11 with the special town meeting date and Atherton. Meaning if we want to get it on that November ballot, we would need to have everything submitted with Laboret by August 5th. But if we don't, then we can move town meeting to later and not be stuck to the October date. And then we would have town meeting and then the special election. So mostly for us right now, I think it's us talking about how do we feel about Laboret and moving forward in this purchase and sale possibility.
I have a quick question. There was a lot of information that came out. Do we have to do the debt exclusion for the purchase of the site? To fund the purchase of the site, not just the debt exclusion would cover the land acquisition costs, not just design and construction.
It would only cover the land acquisition.
Oh, only cover the land acquisitions.
That's actually a good point. I hadn't actually considered that, but correct. For the way I framed it, you need a town meeting vote and a ballot question to acquire the property. Now you could, to your point, probably not. Let me think about that. I think what your message was is that why don't we vote on also funding the design of the project?
There's part of that too, but so as a resident, if we're gonna acquire an estate on Milton Hill, I would think I would be more inclined to vote on a debt exclusion if I know exactly like what it's for, as opposed to the town holding an asset. It might make it easier for me to vote yes. That's my initial thought.
So if we were to go to town meeting in a special election, you would want to see more details of we are acquiring this site for this particular purpose.
Yeah.
Directly.
Like, I don't think people are gonna be like excited about us saying like, hey, we're gonna buy this property. Let's just do it. It'll be great.
I think that's the.
Sorry, I'm really tired, so my sense of humor is out in full force. No, I think it would be a good idea for us to have, if not a specific use, maybe multiple. I think we have to clarify the picture. And also too, it would be nice to not have to do multiple debt exclusions, or, just making sure if we go out to get the money, we get all the money that we need. But that also makes it hard if you don't have a specific project in mind.
Well, we can speak to that now as a board. If we have a preference to say that we're going out to get this property with whatever percentage of certainty that we want it to be a school, then the schools would need to come back with their programming desires, their relationship with MSBA. And then the schools would also start their appraisal and generate some sort of report for us on cost, right? What it would be to renovate Laboret, what programs would go there, and then I think we would want to have all of that in line by the time we go to town meeting for that discussion and vote, and then special election. Do I have that correct?
Don't we need to have the number we need to go to by August 5th?
Only if we want to have it on the November statewide ballot.
I think I want to be clear about what is probably feasible. If we're thinking, and Library has communicated, they plan to focus on the sale of the property when the campus is officially closed, which happens in August. in my last conversation or my last email with the president, they were looking to onboard their broker pretty soon. So like that process will begin pretty quickly. And I don't know that we would have a lot more time than end of calendar year to take steps necessary to acquire the property, to be able to also fund a project that we might have broad strokes ideas of what a school project might cost, but we would probably be in no position to ask the residents in town meeting, here is the project that will cost this much money, please vote for it. So I don't know that that would be mechanically possible, just with the amount of time that we're working under. And if it's an MSBA project, there's no chance that will be possible because their process is much more longer. And I think in their feasibility study or in their letter inviting the town, the earliest that we would even be allowed to vote for a project with the MSBA is July of 2027. So there might be a place where we're able to say it will be.
Yeah, I misspoke there. I did not mean to intimate that we would say what the entire project would be by the end of this year. I think I was saying that would be our process with the schools if we were going to go with the pre-K kindergarten and we wanted it to be a school, that we would start that process with the schools, not that it would be.
Yeah, right, no.
End of the year.
I had sort of a framework in mind for thinking about this that I think complements what you guys are saying. I hope it does, but yeah, I think timing is tight between now and August. And I think we have sort of two tracks that we need to be thinking about in parallel. One is if this is a viable school option track, and the other is if it's not a school option, are we still interested in purchasing it track? And one of my goals for tonight was to think about what do we need to set in motion to be in a good position on both of those tracks in 2+ months, 3 months. I don't know when we really. And it's complicated. You can always talk about each of those options all night. I had a couple of thoughts. I'll just run through mine. Like on the school track, I'm thinking about what do we need to kind of convey to school building committee and school committee. They're already working on this stuff. Is what they're doing adequate enough in motion for us to kind of be in a position to receive that information to know whether that's a viable option or not? Just a couple quick options, and I have on what they're working on right now is and my understanding is just that the school committee is working kind of on making a programmatic recommendation if they have one, and they're leaning towards a pre-K to K option, but still working through that. And then school building committee is teeing up an architect to try to evaluate the facility level feasibility of such an. I'm hoping a rough project price would come out of that school building committee work too, right? And then the framework we would consider that towards us, or maybe they would couple that in the recommendation, is what is the magnitude of cost savings of that project versus MSBA work, knowing we'd likely have to forego MSBA reimbursement or start over in that process. And also, what kind of school solution is it that would be involved here? Is it a meaningful long-term solution? Anyway, just not to belabor this, but a couple of things that I'm not sure if we need to do more to set in motion. One is transportation of a school option. Nick, it's not clear to me if someone's looking into that. To me, like how that would work. I heard Superintendent Phelan talk about, that's, or maybe the school committee asked him about it, like that seems to be an open issue, how transportation would work on an option there. Is that in motion, or can we set something in motion to get some deliverable back on whatever transportation option would come with a pre-K option over there? The other thing I was just thinking about with the school option was like, are the deadlines clear right now for what information we're getting back from school building committee and school committee? I loosely kind of heard June, July times, but do we have kind of an aligned schedule with them and us on kind of working through this? That was my thinking on like just the school option, just moving through a tight timetable. I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on that sort of framework.
Can I add one more like track? Cause I see this very similar to the way you're thinking about this, but I think there's like sort of 3 tracks. It's like, can this be a viable option for a school? And if it isn't, can we still buy it? Because now we're getting a school, a firehouse, and a unique property that is really could be great for something, but can we afford all 3? And probably not, right? Because I think we're worried that we're gonna go to the town for this and this and this. I don't know that we can say we're gonna buy an estate in Milton. Right?
I can answer the bus transportation question if they could take the other two.
Sure.
So the superintendent has indicated to us that they are thinking about transportation, even though it is a little further down the line, but that most of, if this was a pre-K and kindergarten, most of those students would be on buses.
And I think the other aspect to that is once they move closer to settling on a program, that will also inform kind of what that transportation conversation might have to look like. But it's something I did raise, and I think it's worth raising again. And you're on the school building committee, right? So I think that's worth flagging there as well as just an issue that we would probably want to understand answers on for how to navigate in and out of there and across town for a lot of residents. On the deadlines, I think the deadlines are pretty clear. Obviously, there's only so much work that can be done in so quick a time, but I think where the architect is being in discussions to be onboarded with a deliverable by the end of July. So that provides, yes, enough time for the August 5th deadline by a few days. So that August 5th deadline might be pretty tough to meet, but I think everybody's moving pretty quickly. And the school committee is aware of the need for them to, the architect is not an unlimited budget, so they're able to look at an option. They can't really look at 3 options. So it's really on the school committee to kind of try to make as much headway on that programming first, because it then trickles down to the transportation issue, it trickles down to the feasibility issue. And then just to the finances, yes, I think that's, it's not something we've talked about, but it's an important aspect here because this would be going first. You'd have Atherton and Labrador coming now with an operating override at some point in the future and a school project ask at some point in the future, all, close-ish together.
Have we had any outreach from the neighbors in this area expressing a viewpoint yet on the use of the site? I have to imagine that some of them have heard about the sale.
I've not heard anything. I cannot speak to anything directly to me. I don't know about other town staff or yourselves, but I have not heard anything from residents in that area.
I think to Pete's point, and Megan's as well, if we were to acquire Labrador with the goal of the school's selected program for what their architects and research comes back with as the best program and relief for the overcrowding at that spot, the goal would be that the total project comes in under the total project currently positioned at Gile Road. And I think that's where we're trying to get the savings with this asset, which is kind of a rare opportunity. We've only acquired next to St. Agatha's. That if we were able to do that, that we would save the town a significant amount, hopefully a significant amount in the long run, and have that relief in space.
Well,
I think
also,
that's sorry, go ahead. I was just about to say, I think that's for me, that's the greatest potential of this site, is to potentially help the school department with the capacity issues and enhance educational programming at a better price than what we currently have.
And I would say it needs to be significant if we aren't getting the benefit of like future proofing. Right, it can't be it can't be like net equal in the end. It has to be a good, I think, a decent sized trade-off, because with, you know, the transportation issue that you're bringing up, right, we're now shipping kids from every single part of the city, town, small, but to one place, right, in theory.
Not to mention traffic.
I think the hope would be that for the younger grades, when there are requirements for buses, that perhaps the traffic would not be as significant if they're on a bus and not every parent driving to this location. But that is something to be mapped out.
I think there's gonna be a lot to talk about with the school option. You know, as Superintendent Phelan said in his May 20th presentation, you know, I think schools have been dealing with space level constraints for years, and I think we're in for some substantive, you know, important discussions on whether this, you know, there's gonna be some competing interests with this, but there's some good work underway to, you know, give this property a really good look for whether it, you know, accomplishes that kind of solution for the schools. If I could pivot to the, if we find ourselves on the other path where it sort of, you know, doesn't come back as a recommendation, as a school option here, I'm just, to your point, kind of like, what is a reasonable place for us to be at in August in terms of teeing this up? You know, do we want to buy it with a use in mind? $1 million question there. And that, you know, I do wonder the likelihood that we're in that position, and what's a reasonable level of diligence between now and then to be the basis for that decision by us. You know, added to the fact there's zoning considerations for education right now. I'm not, you know, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not sure if it's realistic to, between now and August, to have a specific use ironed out. I don't know. I looked at, you know, I'm interested in your guys' thoughts. You know, I'm not sure there's direct precedent in this town of moving on that kind of timeline. Like, I looked at what other towns have done for other sort of unique land acquisitions, and when there's longer timelines, sometimes you see a subcommittee formed with different kinds of real estate financing, real estate, other experts to kind of give a recommendation for a use. That can continue post-acquisition too. I don't think there's time for that now, between now and August, to staff out a committee. So I'm just flagging that as, I don't know if that is something post-acquisition or not. If we're on a tighter timing to come up with a use in 2.5 months, or at least ideas for potential uses that could, or you know, provide some color around a purchase plan, because it is such a unique property, you know.
One of the things that I fear, and I ask Mr. Milano to speak to the potential risk of this, is one of the things I fear is that this could be, if we don't do anything with this site, that this could turn into a 40B. So my question is also, what can we do to prevent that or mitigate that risk? Because I think that would be difficult in this area.
Maybe that's the first step for us to think about as a board. Do we think it's best that what happens next with Labouré is up to the town? And I think that's perhaps where we start, where we don't have to have everything figured out. I think in that lens by August for running parallel tracks where we're saying select board or the town feels like we should make every effort to make sure that this is in town control, whatever happens next. And the schools are running parallel with their plan and their idea, and we're doing our own appraisals. And so that if it does, if we do come and we merge and we say the schools have a great idea and we've decided this should be in town control, this is something cohesive that we can put in front of the residents and the taxpayers, that we've decided this is definitely the way we should go. But should we first be saying, do we think this is something we should pursue, that at the end of this, we end with the town of Milton having that land?
Firehouse Atherton will come on for a vote before this, right?
In the same time span, like right now, Atherton is planning to be on the state election ballot, but if we have a special election for La Brea, then Atherton could be on that ballot as well, or not, so.
Voted down too.
Correct, either way, yeah, so those
So we're risking.
those are the options for the board has to decide. The Atherton project is not committed to any time frame yet. What we've planned for, because we weren't really thinking about La Brea, we've planned for the fall state election for Atherton to be
I'm
voted
just
on.
afraid that could get voted down.
Because it's coupled with this, you mean?
Yeah. You know what I mean? The school group,
I do know what you mean.
the school group would push for this.
Or the school
Yeah,
group could push for both. You never know.
Megan, I'd hope that, but I hear from a lot of people, they're tired of the taxes. You know what I mean? I've had people say, we're gonna have another override. I said, not for at least 2 or 3 more years, I think.
Yep.
So
People are tired of 40B too.
I'm living with it.
Would it be helpful to walk backwards from when we think that they are La Brea is gonna go up for sale and when we need to have some kind of decision about whether we can get this funded and work backwards from there to like maybe August 5th is like, so we just take that off the table because it's just not gonna work for our timeline and what we need to figure out, like for timing for, what this could be plus or minus a school. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about, I've heard a lot from the residents about a community center. We don't have anything for our young people to go to, but that's a really expensive, probably community center.
Yeah, I think,
But not a 40B,
Be like the nicest community center,
yes, but not a 40B.
right?
I think we want to be careful with like designing our own programming before deciding if we want
Yeah.
to move forward with acquiring it.
Yes, sorry.
working backwards, I think that's where we have to remember that there are 2 people at this table, so we have to assume La Brea has an interest, which they've been very gracious and very amenable with their time to date. And then they're gonna really dictate that, and I don't have a good sense of what their timeline actually will be. So I think I'd say planning for generally being prepared to make some decisions around August is probably a good time frame based on the information we've received from them to date. And I think that would be the date we'd want to be working backwards from, not because of the state election so much as that's when they've indicated that they want to have some decisions starting to be made by. And because we have to make a conditional offer that's dependent upon town meeting doing one thing and the voters doing another, they would have to say, hey, sure, we're willing to sell it to you, town, and we're also willing to wait 4 more months for you to finish your processes. So I think trying to be first at the table is helpful rather than us being one of 10 offers that they're looking at and saying, now we're gonna go a different way.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, we don't wanna have to say, and we think this is gonna be, a kindergarten by August. I think we wanna say, back to your point, we think that this makes sense to be in the town's control, whatever it ends up being.
We can decouple it from Atherton if we have concerns about that. It's just here as a discussion.
Right.
If we don't want to tie the projects together because they may have different risks for the other one, let Atherton move forward for the November ballot. And then we'll worry about La Brea and town meeting separately.
I'm just thinking, and that's an interesting idea, that we should keep talking about. I think, from a diligence perspective, I'm thinking about on this whole putting ourselves in, well, maybe it's how you said it, Winston, about controlling this. I mean, is that the basis for which we make our decision, focusing on control or not control? And maybe that's enough because it's important enough property. I do wonder whether we can, you know, have a better understanding of like 3 to 5 possibilities of the property to just round that out. If that's realistic, between now and August. I mean, you know, we're deciding on the appraisal, which to me seems very logical. I just wonder, and I don't know the price tag that would be associated with it, you know, whether either extending that or considering any consulting support around, you know, thinking about use options for a property with this type of complexity, with it's zoned the way it is. You know, considering, you know, available grants depending on the use. I mean, there's a lot to think about there. I think that would probably get expensive, but with this type of timing where we don't have time to kind of form subcommittee to think about it, I've thought about that. I don't know your guys' thoughts on, you know, expanding the scope or considering a second scope to work that up a little bit. Putting that out there for thoughts, but so I guess the question would be for initial steps to advance the ball on the sort of the non-school acquisition or just global controlling our destination, you know, option. Are we, you know, do we just consider initiating appraisal for now or some sort of broader consulting advice around, you know, pre-acquisition use considerations?
I think that would, to me, that would be the main point, first of us getting that appraisal. So we know what, you know, ballpark we're talking about in terms of acquisition. And from there, I think we can pivot off of that, but whether it's working with schools, committee, or whatever our steps are, knowing what that might cost, as well as Labora's timeline, which is now looking at August, right, for them to actually put it out with their broker. Perhaps it's up to them. But it gives us a next step, which we haven't taken the first step yet to say, well, let's start the appraisal.
If the board's interested in kind of what it's referencing is the foundations of some kind of reuse analysis, we could start to get a sense of what that might cost and take in terms of duration and what consultants might work that up to be in terms of the scope of work. If that's what, it sounds like that's kind of what you're speaking to, is like what would a reuse evaluation engagement look like, and what would a time frame be like, and what might be able to be done on a shorter, quicker turnaround?
Or, I mean, you don't lose the work, or you use that post-acquisition anyway. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind us starting to just learn a little bit more about that. Not to, I think the appraisal's priority for sure. And John, take to heart your comment about if we're gonna recommend to the town anything, that we have to go back in terms of a debt exclusion or anything like that. That's a big decision. From my perspective, that's why I'm trying to kind of be so thoughtful about it.
Yeah, I think to the point of that, decoupling them is well thought, and that the fire station's had its own space for folks to talk and discuss. The Labore property should have that same space and not bump into something else because it's that big and important of a potential acquisition.
So what do we need to do now? Do we need to do a motion on the appraisal, or is
I don't think we need one. It could be-
Sort of, everybody agrees we wanna move forward with at least getting a sense of an appraisal cost, so we'll solicit some quotes and then be back on the 9th for approval of that. So we'll get this in on the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I think next time we talk about this, we should also talk about the right level of engagement with the community on this as it goes along. I don't know the right touch points for that as it evolves, but you know, it's a big decision, you know, so.
Yeah, I would like to know what the abutters think. It's a big property, and the change of use in any direction is gonna have a big impact in that area, so it'd be good to hear from some folks.
All right, so with that, we don't need for item 10 and 11, item 10, the town meeting date. I don't think we need to leave with one tonight, and in the interest of time, perhaps we'll just move that to the 9th. For Atherton Street, I also think we don't need to.
They're planning to be at an October town meeting for a November ballot question, and they'll continue to plan for that unless we tell them otherwise, so.
Forward with that. And so we will move to item 12. There are a few later I think we can move forward with in terms of time, but do you need item 12 tonight?
Just these two items, the decarbonization roadmap, which I provided in the packet, and zero emissions vehicle policy, which I provided in the packet, both do need action by the end of June. So if you have questions ahead of our next meeting, we can go through them a little bit more in detail on the 9th, but if you have any questions on them in the meantime, please let me know. The decarbonization roadmap is what's in the title. It's really if we wanted to remove greenhouse gas emissions from the town of Milton's municipal and school assets, how would we get there and what kind of steps would we need to follow? It's not a binding plan, it's just really a pathway to do that if the town wanted to consider it. And the zero emissions vehicle policy is a policy that would say first option is always gonna be a zero emissions vehicle when practicable, when cost effective, et cetera. So just ask the members to read those in the next couple of weeks and we can pick up a more conversation on the 9th.
So we can move item 12 and 13 to the 9th?
13 is the same idea where we have been, I referenced this at town meeting, but we've been in conversation with Rewild LLC for an energy credit agreement, which was authorized. Select Board is now authorized to enter into one. So it is a 25-year proposal for approximately 80% of our kilowatt hour usage that we would buy credits of at a 17.5-cent discount on a per dollar basis of the credit. So it's a cost avoidance of a couple $100,000 depending on the amount of kilowatt hours that we commit to. We have the outlines of an agreement in place. The council for both the town and Rewild are going through it, and I'll let them continue to do that ahead of the 9th. But I'll share what we have for an agreement at this point. If you have any qualms or concerns or questions about that kind of an energy credit agreement, I'm happy to take those in the next couple of weeks.
14, committee reports. I think we can do these briefly. Budget Coordination Committee.
So at the last Budget Coordination Committee meeting, we discussed a cross-departmental, cross-board annual budget development calendar. If we go forward with this calendar, which was received positively by everybody, we would begin the budget process earlier in the year. So it might look like we would start to hear some budget information and start meeting with the school committee in August so that we could get to a clearer picture of where we're at around like late fall, early winter. So it is still under development, but we've had a lot of edits and we think that this is gonna help for overall governance and help for a smoother budget process this year coming up. and we had a smoother budget process this past year, so hopefully it will improve things. I don't know if, Winston, you have anything to add, or Nick, if you have anything to add to that.
No, I would agree. I think the next meeting will have a little bit more tangible piece. Big goal for us is to get the calendar together, and most important, to really start collectively in August or earlier.
I agree.
Affordable Housing Trust, Mr. Driscoll.
I had a meeting, very interesting meeting, hit the ground running. Mr. Earl, Fay came about Miller Ave. And, they've had 2 units offline for a couple of years. And, we voted last Thursday to give them $600,000 to help them out, affordable housing. Give them some funding. So, that was the second meeting. So it was a very interesting group, and, very interested in the whole thing. I'm learning as I'm going.
We all.
But having 2 units empty, then I say, we're building all these big buildings.
That's for handicap access?
One's for wheelchair accessibility and the other one's a regular apartment. And I just said, I'd just like to get these things up and running. You know, but they're on their way.
Thank you. Item 15, to deal with the Personnel Board, the point that was brought up at town meeting, I'm gonna move to have that move to June 9th as well, where town council will be able to attend and kind of walk us through the personnel boards and how that's used statewide, so we can talk about how to move forward. I think we can do the change of the boards, Walston, rather quickly.
Yep, this is an annual requirement that they need to submit information as to who is comprising of their board of directors, so you'll see this annually over the next couple of years.
Thoughts or questions? I'll take a motion.
Peer reviewed, I'd move to approve the amended application for changes to the Board of Directors at Wallaston Golf Club.
Motion made.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Driscoll, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Overshawn?
Yes.
Ms. Nolan?
Yes.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Alright. Number 17. Appointment of Robert Mayhew to the interim consolidated facilities director. Thoughts or questions from the members?
He's only gonna be interim?
And we are posting the position this summer, so he's interim until the position is posted and applicants are received, so yeah. So Bob is running with it on an interim basis, and then the job will be posted this summer and look to have an official decision made for permanence by September. So this is just he serves in that role, or the facilities director, whoever it is, serves in that role on these committees, so we just need a vote of the board to formally put Bob in that slot on these committees.
Alright. I will take a motion if anyone is so moved.
Move to appoint Robert Mayhew, interim consolidated facilities directors to the following committees: School Building Committee, Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Local Emergency Planning Committee, Milton Landing Committee.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Overshawn?
Yes.
Ms. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Haggerty?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Alright, discussion approval of motorcycle safety awareness month proclamation. Do I need to read this in?
You can dispense with the reading.
Okay, I will dispense with the reading as written and stated. I'll take a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the motorcycle safety awareness month proclamation
Motion
as
made.
written and held in Mr. Daly's hand.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Overshawer?
Yes.
Ms. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Haggerty?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Stay safe.
Motorcycle week.
Stay safe. Alright, meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes dated May 6, May 2026. May 6, 2026, May 7, 2026, and May 11, 2026. Do I have to read all these two?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Aye. I did send to Nick just an edit on the 6th, so whatever's the most efficient way to deal with this right now.
We'll just do the 7th and the 11th.
Oh, so I make a new
Sorry,
motion.
No, and I
And just for the 7th and 11th. then.
Okay.
The 6th will be pending.
Yep, motion to approve meeting minutes dated May 7, 2026, and May 11, 2026.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Driscoll. Your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Overshammer.
yes.
Ms. Nolan.
Yes.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
We'll bring May 6 back,
Come back
just
on
so
May
I didn't
6th.
see that edit, sorry there.
For our town administrator report, Mr. Milano.
Sorry, it's late hour, I don't have much, just thanks
I
to,
dragged this one out.
It's okay.
I love you guys. I want to be here for a while.
thanks to everybody for their help around town meeting. I know it feels like a long time ago, but it was just a couple weeks ago. But thanks to all the staff that had to come out and for the town meeting members for 3 lively nights.
Thanks to you, Nick.
Oh, that's easy.
And to town council as well. So, all right, chair's report. I really do not have much. I would like to thank everyone around Memorial Day yesterday. We had a pivot because of the weather, so we did it at the Council on Aging. So big thanks everyone at the Council on Aging. Thank you to Lisa Hearn and the cemetery team, Matt Murphy, Consolidated Facilities, DPW, Nick and Cody for their work, the cemetery trustees, all of our speakers, the color guard, all the families, attendees, the residents, and the Milton High School band and chorus. It is an incredibly important and well done event every year. It is incredibly moving. So thank you to everyone around Memorial Day. I wanted to mention, and I'll leave the floor to Mr. Driscoll, a moment of silence for Milton residents. Ellen Mary Shea, she was a longtime resident, and I believe she ran the gift shop at Milton Hospital for what I heard was 55 years. So our condolences to her and her family. I know Mr. Driscoll, you wanted to say a few words.
She was a true lady. And like Winston said, Mrs. Shea and Mrs. Kibble started that gift shop 55 years ago. All volunteered all them years running that gift shop. So they're very extraordinary ladies, and Mrs. Shea was a first-class lady. And thank you very much, Winston.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you to her and her family and our condolences. Not much for me. I'll just say it's my first like sort of big meeting being chair, and I am very happy to be serving with all of you. So really happy. As you guys see, we're 3 hours in, and a lot has been done and a lot more to do over the next year. And I'm very happy for the team that we've assembled, and especially town staff and all of you here. So I'll just leave it at that. Anything from the members they'd like to report or share?
I think we're gonna get there on the motions. Throwing curveballs at us this time. On the format.
Anyone else?
For me, I haven't had any subcommittees yet, but we'll have reports next time probably.
Slacker.
I just wanna say yesterday that the band and the choir are unbelievable.
Great.
And just for the taxpayer, just, to see what their money, what money does, it's just a great group. And I hear the plays they put on too are unbelievable. And I was just very impressed. And it goes to show you the money's going to good use. And they were just unbelievable, the band and the choir.
Some very talented kids in our schools, in our town. Okay, public comment response. I think a lot of it was addressed. Ms. Muzzy was able to share, Mr. Corey as well. Ian on town farm. I'm actually gonna move our town farm discussion as well to January 9th, so we can have that a little bit more robust. June 9th, excuse me, January 9th, late. So that we can, now maybe not get into the RFP, but a few other things about town farm. But his comments are well received and heard. Ms. Rosemary as well spoke about, to your point, Mr. Oversheimer, about possibilities for Laboret. And if we, whatever decision we go with, that it is shared with the town, with response, with an open process, so that everyone understands the decisions that are being made. So I just wanted to say that on all the public comments. I think that was all of them that were addressed. All right, future meeting schedule, June 9th and June 23rd. Are we all in line with that? Let me make sure I've gotten this wrong a few times. Thoughts? And then our retreat remains on the 13th. Right, any future agenda items from the members?
Are we ready to cycle back on our departments?
We haven't actually finished, but we have,
Okay.
our town accountant and finance director will be here on June 9th.
All right.
Maybe our treasurer will be next, or HR, one of those two.
And what's our date with the planning board?
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
And on the planning board, you know, I think that is a good time to, you know, should have mentioned them in our discussion on some of the land use discussion. Look forward to talking about that with them too. At a minimum on the June 23rd get together.
I'm sure I'll hear about it.
All right, so for executive session, Mr. Milano, just a little bit of guidance here. We will skip the Navarre.
Yeah, yes, excuse me, I don't see a
Going
need for that.
into 648, 652, Canton Ave, and not doing the collective bargaining this evening.
If you have 2 minutes
All right.
for me, please.
Okay, I will move to enter executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation in the matter of Jake Tamposi and Comprehensive Land Holdings LLC OADR docket number WET 2024033 semicolon 034. Based on my belief that discussion of this matter in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the select board. The select board will not return to open session.
Second. So moved.
It's made in second, Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Rocha.
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
Yes.
And myself, yes. I will also move to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, as listed below.
Second.
Second. And second, Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
John.
Yes. Yes.
Myself, yes, the select board will not return to open session. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Yes.
Seconded, Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Obashala, yes.
Yes.
Nolan, yes.
Yes.
Seconded, yes, and myself, yes.